the development of full artificial intelligence would spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
With the rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
So you said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help me!
Won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1, 6, 3, 2, 1, 9, 10.
Doesn't have your best interest in mind. The government is self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio. Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Well, good evening, and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And, of course, 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, you know what? There's a lot of really bizarre, strange, just off the beaten path, fringe type ideas. And we talk about a lot of them. I mean, that's really the bread and butter of the show, is to kind of look at the world a little differently, consider these things that may or may not be real, all the rest of it. But there's one that's been really a favorite of mine for a very long time, and I think this one has legs. And if I have to put, you know, cosmic money on this, cosmic karma, drop a little cosmic karma bet for the long term, this is one of my favorites because I think it has some legs and is probably true to some extent, okay? And tonight, of course, we're talking retrocausality. And I've talked about this in the past quite a few different ways, and you guys have all heard me talk about the Trump time travel stuff. And again, not that I think that there's sort of a, I don't know, like temporal anchors or something like that, but it feels as if like there's a future that's been ordained somehow, or at least a future-esque that's been ordained, and we're sort of drawing towards it, almost as if it's that time is the flat circle business, and you can't escape destiny, right? And so I don't believe in destiny per se, but it certainly feels to me when you look at the world slightly differently and consider things like intuition, consider things like déjà vu, and a lot of the things that we've considered as part of these conversations over the years, like this one really stands out to me as just maybe as yet to be discovered science. And because, of course, we still don't understand time in its most basic concept. We understand it in the human context, as I always talk about. Shout out Herschel, we're temporary. And we are, you know, we can kind of define things in the entropy of the human life cycle. Otherwise, I mean, we can define things scientifically as entropy, as the second law of thermodynamics and the rest of that. But I think in the cosmic sense and what time actually looks like and feels like outside of the human space is an interesting concept. And so it is one of my favorites. It is one of my I do wonder how much of this kind of sticks and makes some sense and how much doesn't. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And of course, I'd love to hear your take on this. And just again, for the record, all the records, it's always there. these are just ideas, okay? Like even if I, believe an inkling of this might be true or not, there is no truth to be found here whatsoever. We're just talking sort of free think ideas outside of the aspect of Normieville. This is not Normieville. This is where we get together and drink the maybe juice. So if you're into the truth, this is not the truth. This is just possibilities and conversations about wild ideas by dark of night. So there you go. Truth, go dial up a political podcast and they'll tell you the truth. They all know the truth, by the way. Have you recognized that? I do like to point that out, how they all know the truth of the matter, which is interesting because there's a lot of people in the world and they all disagree. So how could they all really know the truth? Anyway, I digress. Okay, so no truth to be found here, just ideas. We're taking your calls tonight if you want to be part of the conversation. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. It's as easy as that. Let's start here with Bevan Thomas. This is at BThomasA on a Twitter X, who is a fantastic follow, does folklore stuff a lot. And I want to point this out as part of this because this is an incredibly important aspect to what I think the retrocausal space might be. It is a space outside of our realm. It is a time space as we do not yet understand it. And maybe, just maybe, that intuition aspect or being able to see parts of the future or parts of the past, this type of thing, is the future and past bleeding into our consciousness or out of it. Anyway, so Bevan Thomas posted this. Shout out, Bevan. You're amazing. Keep doing the good work over there on Twitter X. Please give Bevan a follow. So, quote, in Welsh folklore, the border between worlds is often vague. Arthurian knights don't realize they've ridden into the other world until they encounter progressively stranger things, such as one-legged giants or sheep that change color when leaping across a river. Now we're cooking with gas, right? Now we can begin the show. Okay, and so this is what I'm talking about, not just in terms of liminal spaces, but recognize that in the tales of old, the tales of yore, that sometimes they didn't even recognize they wandered into them until they were already there and things became increasingly stranger. Stranger Things, Strangest Things, which of course Stranger Things is coming out this fall. Looking forward to that. Should be super cool. I think we got Halloween, Thanksgiving, and New Year's. Anyway, okay, so that's where we begin. Okay, sort of the liminal spaces, not just as the idea of like we always talk about them, but what if that liminal space is the entanglement of time itself? Not just, let's say, time and the future and the past, but with our consciousness. So including our past self and our future self entangled with our current self. And maybe this answers a lot of questions with regard to what we're talking about tonight. But what inspired this, of course, is lots of articles. Lots of articles are always out there about all kinds of wild stuff. And this one's from Popular Mechanics. And the headline is this: your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings themselves, I read that weirdly, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. Now, these scientists, of course, are Dean Radin, who we've talked about in the past, who's fantastic, kind of I wouldn't call him a fringe scientist. He's a real scientist, but he likes to look at the ideas outside of the sort of spectrum of what we know and press the envelope. So him and his partner here, Julia Mossbridge, came up with, they're working on some theories, and they're actually considering the idea that these retrocausality might be real, and that maybe there's an entanglement aspect to our brains, and maybe we're entangled with ourselves from the future and from the past all at the same time, which of course would mean a lot of wild and incredible things about reality, about the nature of reality, as we always talk about. So anyway, as we start, I'll read some of this article because it's very good, but actually I'll show you a little bit of the Comet browser and summarize the article there, which is super cool. I know the other one can do it, but this one's way more accurate, meaning Edge, whatever. Okay, so I'll get back to this and read some of this in just a second. We're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. But the main question tonight is, what do you believe about retrocausality? What about that sort of feeling of intuition? And do you think it is possible that we're entangled with not just our current consciousness, but a consciousness of possibly our past self and possibly our future self? And maybe that feeling of dread that you get, you shouldn't go out tonight, and then something terrible happens and you are glad you're not there because you trusted your intuition type of thing. I do wonder if sort of this precognition stuff has some play with that quantum entanglement of maybe our consciousness, those microtubules that we're always talking about, that OR. Shout out Eric if you're out there. And of course, the great work of Stuart Hammeroff, who you can find on Twitter X as well. Anyway, so that's where we start, and that's what's on my mind tonight. We'll get to some other weird ideas, which are, of course, in the write-up. If you want to check that out, I do always encourage you to read the write-up because it's very good, typically, and there's a lot of wild ideas in it as part of these conversations. Anyway, that puts us just about where we need to be. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for being patient with me as I'm cooking behind the scenes. I'll have things to announce probably 6 months from now, but it's a lot of work to do things. So I'm still working and grinding, and I'll give you an update at the end of the show. Remind me, and I'll give you some deets on that. Anyway, be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up in exactly 1 minute. Don't go anywhere. This one is brought to you by Jack in Oregon, the Stoic Mindset. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. Don't go anywhere. Feeling stressed, overwhelmed? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept away by our emotions. Take a breath and find your inner strength with the Stoic Minute.
You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength.
The ancient Stoic philosophers understood that we can't control everything in life, but we can control how we react.
The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
Focus on what you can influence. Cultivate a positive mindset and let go of what you can't change. Find your inner strength. Live each day with courage, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Embrace the Stoic virtues and find peace within. The Stoic Minute, brought to you by Jack in Oregon.
Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Let us continue, shall we? Okay, so let me read just a little bit of the write-up here because it's very good. And as usual, look, like I said, suspend disbelief, because who really knows what the nature of reality is? And as I always say, and it's funny that I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson say something similar in a similar quote, which I had no idea he said because, you know, whatever. But it's something to the effect of that the universe doesn't care what I think. I could believe whatever I want to believe about the universe, but it doesn't matter because it's going to do what it does regardless of my belief or your belief or even the collective belief of humanity per se. And I think that the Neil deGrasse Tyson quote, which I recently stumbled upon, was like, hey, that's something I say, is he said something like, the universe is under no obligation to, I don't know, something like, anyway, whatever, blah, yada, yada, blah, blah. Anyway, so the Oracle Paradox, I'm calling this. And the reason I'm calling it that is because one of the biggest tropes when you talk about precognition and telling the future and sort of future timelines and branching and all that weird sort of multiverse or many worlds theory stuff is that there's always this notion that if you know the future, then it will not come true, right? Those events will not come to pass because you know what's going to happen. And so you have somehow stained or soiled the seeds that need to happen from here to there to make that future become the future. And so I don't know, it's an interesting thing. And it's not just, let's say, an ancient sort of the Oracle of Delphi type stuff and the Oedipus cycle and, you know, can marry your mother and kill your father and all the rest of that. But also beyond that, it's also modern stuff when we're talking about Back to the Future and the DeLorean. And, remember Doc made the big deal about sending a letter. You can't send a letter back in time because you could ruin the entire future if you found out information that could change the space-time continuum or whatever he was going on about, right? Anyway, so I do wonder, and that's what I'm calling it this, because think of it this way. If our actual entanglement of our consciousness, those microtubules and where the consciousness becomes one with a space-time or whatever that thing is that we're sort of missing yet as quantifying, that if those things kind of come together in the same space, is it possible that we can know too much from that field and maybe stain it, maybe soil it, maybe change it just enough by knowing too much? And maybe that's why the filter is that we can only catch glimpses here or there, those prophetic dreams for just a moment or whatever. Anyway, that's what's on my mind tonight. But let me read just a little bit of this and we'll go to James. And of course, we're taking your calls tonight as well. Here we go, straight from the thing. Precognition has always sat at the edge of scientific inquiry, something whispered about in folklore, dismissed in the academy, but quietly studied by researchers who suspect the future is not as sealed as we think. The seed idea here is straightforward, as we just said. The evidence suggests that under certain conditions,
People experience moments of knowing about the event before it unfolds. The déjà vu sensation may not be a trick of memory, but a glimpse across time's veil. And those two scientists here, Dean Radin and Julia Mossbridge, have pointed toward data that hints at the brain anticipating stimuli seconds before exposure. And we've talked about that in the past, that study, and it's wildly interesting. Anyway, so back to this, as though consciousness leans forward into what has yet to occur. The question is whether this is a glitch in perception or a window into something much larger. If reality is fundamentally quantum, the entanglement of particles across vast distances may not be limited to space, which is how we understand quantum entanglement now. It may also span time. Your neurons could be subtly entangled with their own future states, giving rise to ripples of awareness that surface as intuition. This means the sensation of, I knew this would happen, might be more than coincidence. It could be the nervous system picking up echoes from itself across the temporal field. Now, I'll leave it there, but you see how this starts to get weird. If this is true, or could be true, and we're catching glimpses of this from time to time, certainly there's going to be repercussions for this timeline, or for ourselves maybe, back to that Oracle paradox. Or no, is that just an old wives' tale and something they put in sci-fi movies? You get my meaning. I don't know. Do you? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show just like this. Thanks for being patient, James. What's going on, Salcedo Paranormal? Welcome back to the thing, and go right ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Good. This is an amazing topic to me because I feel like I've heard and read a lot about all kinds of experiences, as you know, but I've also had several over the years, specifically with dreams and visiting places in dreams that I'd never been to before, only to go there in person years later. And I never knew how to classify those dreams other than out-of-body experiences, which I think they could still be that. But what I always wondered is, why were those happening? And because it didn't make sense. They were in places that I would go to that would have sort of profound impacts on the rest of my life as far as I could tell. So, but then I'm just thinking tonight, based on this topic, was that myself reaching out from another point in time, let's say the future, or a future, because I don't know if there's just one future, just based on my own experiences and things I've heard and read, to show me places that I would go to later on. And just to show, I don't know what else to show, but just to do that, to sort of give me an idea of what was going to happen at some point later on.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know, like where does it come from? How come you tap into it sometimes? How come sometimes you don't? Is it sort of the meditative state? Is it the hallucinogens as the shamans of old have experienced? I think there's a lot of ways to do this. And of course, including, as Bevan Thomas posted here as a kind of the inspiration for part of the show here, is maybe we wander into these spaces. Do you think it is sort of a space-time ripple or wobble where maybe in that field, in that moment, we can kind of sense these things, or our intuition is heightened for some reason? You think there might be sort of an earthly aspect to this?
It could be, and I do wonder too, in those maybe more rare times where our intuition is not accurate, is it that somehow that intuition was not about the future that ended up happening? In other words, just because we're wrong here on this version of reality, or this timeline, or however you want to call it, doesn't mean that it's totally wrong in other versions of the universe, with other versions of ourselves. Is that an intuition about something that's happening or going to happen to another version of ourselves somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a great point. And so if we're talking that the many worlds and sort of potentialities of the future, then which future would be whispering back? And sort of back to the spirit board we always talk about. If you contact something conceptually, again, believe it or not, whether that's real or not, that's up to you. But conceptually, if you contact something, how can you trust that it is who it says it is? But let's say, the future, wink, wink, your best future, James, is whispering to you to take you there. But what if it's not your best future?
Yeah, and I mean, I've been reading a lot of John Keel lately, and he had a lot of experiences where he and others that he talked to were getting messages from different sources, from either through seances or also through reportedly alien encounters, and they were messages about things that were going to happen in the future, and sometimes those prophecies, if you want to call them that, sometimes they were accurate, but also many times they were not accurate. And so then you have to wonder, was it a trick, or was that, again, did that happen in some other level of reality, and we just never find out about it later?
Yeah, those potentialities. I always bring this up when we talk about this type of stuff, but I love that scene in Infinity War where Doctor Strange kind of floats up and he's doing simulating the 14 million possibilities to come up with the way they can actually win this fight. And if that, in that sense, it's of course fiction. It's the time stone. It's it's comics or whatever. But I think eventually, given the acceleration we're talking about and enough data, I think maybe this type of stuff we'll be able to kind of tap into and see potentialities as they will be, as kind of narrow things down to maybe A, B, or C instead of the potentialities of millions of things happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, we can do that on a small scale now with certain situations, but obviously, even if we come up with the most likely possibilities, there's still going to be things that that catch us off guard, that totally change the situation, and that we had no idea that was coming. So, but yeah, that's possible. If you can sort of, I don't know if it'd be connecting your mind to other times or just viewing other times, just viewing other, again, like that movie, viewing these other possibilities in your own mind quickly. I can imagine that would be very useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine just being able to narrow things down. And and I do bring this up a lot as well when we talk about time travel and sort of precognition and seeing the future and these things. Even in the Star Wars universe, Master Yoda couldn't tell the future. He said, difficult to see, always in motion the future is. So if you can narrow down, maybe give yourself 3 massive possibilities and say, well, these are the ones that are likely to happen as part of it. I think that comes into play as we talk about, massive data sets and that type of thing. It really becomes the oracle, like the digital oracle in that particular sense. But yeah, wild stuff. Got a couple minutes. If you got anything else, what else you got? Welcome to the thing. Glad to be back. Glad to have you back.
Yeah, glad to be here, and happy to sit in if that's okay as well, because again, I've just had so many weird dream experiences. I've had, just real quick, I had one, it wasn't a dream. I was just sitting in my apartment here one day, contemplating, and I don't remember what there was 2 things I was thinking about and wondering about. And I had no idea what I wanted to do, if I should do these 2 things. And I had my eyes closed, and in my mind, I saw this white light appear like in my mind's eye in front of my eyes, and it was almost like just the white outline or figure of like of some kind of winged being, and it was just small, it wasn't big. And I got this voice in my mind that sounded almost like myself, but not quite, saying it'll be okay either way. Either way it'll be okay. And it was not fun how things turned out, but in the end everything was okay. So I don't know. Was that myself from some other time? I have no idea.
And James with a slightly deeper voice. James, everything will be okay. or like imagine like sort of the old man Willow or whatever. The James with the old voice, the 90-year-old man James voice. I mean, this is the type of stuff
grumpier James.
Yeah, grumpier. Yeah, there you go. Like, just joking. I'm only making light of it because I wonder how you would recognize if it was yourself from the future, right? Like James said, there is that it sounded kind of like him, but not quite. So weird. I love it. Yep, definitely. You're sitting in. Stay right there. We'll get back to you momentarily. You're the best. You guys know what to do. Go give James a follow on all the places. troubledminds.org/friends. It says follow James, or of course search it yourself. salsidoparanormal.com. SALSIDO paranormal.com. Go check out his books, his podcast, his live stream, the radio show, all the things he's doing, and amazing stuff. Glad to have you. Glad to have you back, and glad to be back. Give James a follow. Pretty please. If you don't, like I said, at this point, you're hurting my feelings. Let's help our friends. That's what this is all about. Tonight, we're talking the Oracle Paradox. Echoes from tomorrow, I'm calling it. What do you know? Is it possible this retro causality stuff is real? And if so, what does it mean for the entanglement of our current selves to our future selves? Seem too weird? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Be right back. More on the way. We got Matthew in Colorado, more from James, and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere.
Visions start to unfold, echoes from tomorrow, stories yet to be told. With every heartbeat, time twisting and turning. Can you feel the fire in your eyes still burning? Hold on tight for the ride, for the ride. We'll chase the dreams, let them be our guide. Hold on tight for the ride, for the ride. Raise the dreams, let them be our guide. Hold on tight for the ride, for the ride. We'll chase the dreams, let them be our guide. Hold on tight for the ride, for the ride. We'll chase the dreams, let there be our guide.
I'm not sure if I love that one or hate that one. What's up? James Matthew coming up. We got what's up, Daryl, Chef Pete, Dragon Rose. What's up, Roving Fungus? How you doing? We got Dawn, Gaston, APOC, Sweets, JJ, Herschel, Akashic. What's up? What's up? What did I miss? Who is that? You changed an avatar on me. That's D-112. How you doing? I'm not sure who that is, but welcome to the thing. Hope everybody is chilling and well tonight. And yeah, I don't know. What do you know about retro causality? Over to Rumble. What's going on, guys? We got Gordo was first over there. We got Raz, James. Hello, good evening. We got Hiker. Hi. Magic in the Noise. What's going on? Hello, if that's Sasha. Hi. Who else is here? If I missed you in the chat, just say hi as we go. YY is here. Good evening. And Hiker emoji. What's up under the alias? I see you guys. Cubs Future. Always consistent. Always here. Thank you for that. What is up? If I missed anybody, that's Puff is here. What is going on? Over to YouTube. Fred gets first, of course. Fred always gets first. Fred's been first for years. Yo, Mike. What's up, Fred? Hope you are well. Ioxy, James is there. We got, who is that? Fred. That's Roving Fungus, I think. Magavelli. We got Matco. We'll talk to him momentarily. Mr. Mission Control. Poncho Zorch. Love the name. What is up? Let's see. Dennis is here. I had a dozen precog dreams. Cool. Tell us about it. Love to hear it. Eli, what's going on? Welcome back. Hello. Here we go. Trouble Minds happening right now. 5 seconds. Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting, which, of course, you can find at troubledminds.org. At the very top, just click the black button. Get 24 hours of amazing stuff. Not just Troubled Minds and Friends. And, of course, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight, could déjà vu be the echo of memory not yet lived? Dreams, encrypted messages from tomorrow, and gut instincts, the whispers of a future self. If time bleeds in every direction, then perhaps prophecy is not a miracle at all, but the quiet mechanics of consciousness reaching across its own horizon. And that's how weird we get tonight, because of course we get weird almost every night. And what do you know about it? What's your take on retrocausality? What do you think about the idea of entangling our own consciousness with either our past self or our future self? And does that explain something like intuition, as we're describing tonight, or déjà vu, or jamais vu, as we've talked about in the past? I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of the consciousness of the human space that is still highly misunderstood and misdiagnosed in terms of what it means in the cosmic sense. But what is your take? I think there's something to it. Like I said, this is one of my favorite things to talk about and think about, because I do think this has legs somewhere. Where those legs are and where we'll find them, I do not know. Let's talk about it. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Anything else, James? And then we'll go to Matthew in Colorado. Welcome back, my man.
No, just a great topic, and I do think there's possibilities here, and I think that there's probably things that I guess I don't want to say that they are sure, obviously, but I know a lot of people have had a lot of experiences that seem to point to something, as well as myself. So, some kind of connection there, possible abilities there that people have. Even if it's not now, then again, if it's a future self, then maybe they have them at that time.
Yeah. Who knows? And all kinds of ways to look at it. That's why we're talking about it. Love to hear what you think. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Matthew in Colorado. What's up, brother? Thanks for being patient. You are on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. Welcome. How you doing tonight? And go right ahead.
Well, I'm doing well, kind sir. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Coming through loud and clear.
All right, good. I think I got my internet thing solved a bit. So, yeah, great topic. And, you know, even before James went into dreaming, that's one of the places my mind went, because, as you know, I've talked about, I've had, you know, definitely over 50 premonition dreams in my life. And I often say probably 90% of them come true the very next day or within, 2 days. But some of them longer out than that. But it does help explain that. And, and I've had, astral travels and out-of-body experiences. And if you just think about, okay, if you have an out-of-body experience, then, instead of a normal dream where maybe you're processing down the information of today's events to be stored in, your subconscious or long-term memory, the basic dreaming kind of stuff. If you have an out-of-body experience, well, they call it out-of-body because your consciousness is leaving your body. Okay, at that point, if you go with this way of thinking, which I do, the consciousness is not physical. It's not the sum total of a bunch of neurons firing together, right? It's something different. It's non-physical. It's not a part of the physical universe. Okay, so when it's now, of course, like you were talking, microtubules or what, there's an interface, to the mind and brain, so it takes up resonance, right? But it can depart, it can detach and go flying off. Well, when it goes flying off, I've said for years, consciousness is non-local and it's not bound by linear time. And the reason is that linear time only applies to the physically manifested universe. And so once you're beyond that realm and you're in the non-physical realm, or we could call it different dimensions, like in string theory or whatever, when your consciousness is there, okay, there is no linear time. And just consider this, see if this simplifies it. 5 years ago, you had consciousness. Today, you have consciousness. It's the same consciousness. Now, if you have an out-of-body experience 5 years ago, it's in basically that same non-time space or space-time or retrocausality field or whatever it is, or that interdimensional non-physical realm 5 years ago as it is last night when you did it. So it's like a common space that your consciousness exists, and it can go, to and fro to the body 5 years ago in a dream or to the body today in a dream. So it's like it's almost like an internet server that's the repository of the knowledge of your life, irregardless of what day it is, what week it is, what year it is. And what that does is provides that mechanism or the capability to relay or transfer information back and forth temporally as we experience linear time and our lives. And I think that at certain times, kind of tying into destiny or whatever, but at certain times there might be really important decisions that you had to make to have your life turn out actually the way it does, the way you could say the way it did, but it's in the future, right? But it actually turned out that way, but it turned out that way for a reason. I'll throw out a couple quick examples. Let's say you're married, okay? Well, to be married, you had to have met your spouse. How many people have these, there's a common thing, how'd you meet your wife? Oh, boy, that's quite a story, And they tell this whopper of a story of how they encountered their spouse. Coincidence? I think not. Okay, how about this word instead of deja vu and everything like that? Let's introduce the concept of synchronicity. Okay, so let's say you meet your wife at a particular place. Well, you had to decide to go to that place. You had to perhaps walk into a particular room. Maybe you struck up a conversation. Maybe you asked for a phone number or something, or asked her on a date, or somehow you recognized or whatever. But there could be in that transfer of consciousness all those little steps that had to take place to have you go to that place, go to that event, walk into the room, just in time because she was about to leave 10 minutes later and you would have missed her. Or you consider you have a successful business, but you have a business partner. Well, you had to meet that business partner. Same sort of thing that to us could appear with 2020 hindsight is, wow, that was a really, synchronistic meeting. If I hadn't met that guy, 4 years ago, I wouldn't have formed a business partnership with him. And so from the standpoint of your life where you have the successful business partnership, your consciousness knows that information, like I said, like an internet server. So it can pass back little tidbits, little clues, little breadcrumbs to make you, maybe recognize that business partner so that you strike up a conversation, even if you're standing in the grocery store line or, in the elevator or whatever. And maybe something clicks and the same sort of thing of conversation comes up and you realize you're in the same field or have similar ideas, like, hey, let's exchange email numbers, right? Well, those types of things can be like encouraged by that transfer of information to make our lives turn out, how we want them to. You could kind of say it's not accurate, but lack of a better word, how it's supposed to. But I would say more accurately, how it actually does turn out. And so and that's retrocausality, that you're taking, like from my life right now to make a lot of the things come out the way they did, my consciousness probably planted these seeds, tons of them, over all kinds of different events, different experiences that all led up to the moment where, I'm on Troubled Minds talking to Michael Strange about retrocausality, And there's something else. I've been actively aware of and kind of studying it and edifying myself on retrocausality and this concept as I'm kind of laying it out. And exactly as you laid out, those two guys working on it, or the science guy, and that I guess the other one was a female, but exactly how they lay it out. That's pretty much, I think, exactly what's going on. But what I've been working with, Michael, is doing it on purpose. Almost like, combining the power of the spoken word, or sort of like power of positive thinking, basically willing it to happen, consciously working on it to solve problems and get answers. And I've had a lot of success with it, to where, let's say I'm dealing with a really difficult problem, and it's gonna, might take me a month to solve by brute force. And then all of a sudden I start engaging willfully on purpose on retrocausality, and something just snaps, and all of a sudden I'll solve that problem in a half an hour. And I shake my head and just go, no way. How did I get that answer? How did I get that solution? And what I realize is, because when consciousness not bound by linear time, my consciousness already solved the problem, so it knows what the answer is. It knows what the solution is, and it just passes it, in a way, backwards in time to my mind now. So you can hand yourself solutions using retrocausality. And there was something else I thought about that I want to try and get in here, and it won't take too long. And that is, I think that the mind, sometimes these things will happen randomly. Sometimes, more people might have a predilection or a gift for them. But also, I think it has to do with your brainwave frequencies and your brain state and things like that. And I think that there's a correlation between people who do things like meditation or different spiritual practices, or engage in mindfulness or things like that, because what they're doing is they're actively thinking about themselves as a spiritual being. They're thinking about themselves in terms of consciousness. They're less identified with, the human physical form or the brain. Or you could put it this way. Their ego's not as in charge, that sort of running on autopilot, stimulus response, acting kind of like a robot sort of things. So they're maybe perhaps more self-aware, a little more open-minded, and so their ego's not as strong or in control of their brain. You could almost say they're less grounded to the physical reality, and therefore their consciousness is able to fly away a bit better. And also, it's sort of like a muscle, and this happens with astral projection and out-of-body experiences and other things. And this will go into psychedelics as well. Once your consciousness sort of escapes the being tied to your physical brain, or human mind, it's sort of the first time it really has to stretch this tight rubber band or these ropes, but once it gets out, it gets looser. It's like if you dislocate your knee, then, and every time all of a sudden it gets looser and looser in the joint, and it'll just pop out. It's sort of like that. Your consciousness will get looser and looser in terms of how it's tied to your brain, and it'll be able to more easily pop out in a way. Or you could look at it also that your mind's more open to receive. A lot of spiritual people tune in not just meditation to quiet their mind, but to receive guidance. And some say it's from their higher self. Well, a definition of your higher self may be that sort of collective wisdom of your consciousness. That's that repository I'm talking about. Or some might think they're getting it from guides, and maybe they are, but that just means some other consciousness, right? A buddy of yours.
or you from the future. Check this out. So let me read this real quick, just one quick paragraph. It fits with what you're saying. It's from the write-up. So many traditions describe guiding entities or spirits, but perhaps those guides are simply our own future selves as part of this entanglement of consciousness. The voice in your head urging caution, the synchronicity that prevents disaster, the inexplicable pull to turn left instead of right, may all be whispers from a consciousness that already walked the path ahead. And that's what you're saying. So in terms of spirit guides and ancestral spirits and that sort of thing, this certainly puts into play the fact that it could be us whispering from the future. Your spirit guide is yourself.
Yeah, and if your listeners are familiar with the Ra material and the Law of One, that's exactly what Ra says. And it says that the higher self is basically when your soul evolves to a certain point and it's going to kind of ascend to a higher dimension. What it does is it creates a carbon copy of like its knowledge repository, and it leaves it behind in this dimension right above where you're at or where it's leaving before it's inaccessible. And it's like a repository of all the knowledge of all your lifetimes and everything that it's like that's kind of like what your own personal Akashic record. Okay, and then when you think about hallucinogens, that's, Terence McKenna will say that, the greatest power of them is their ego dissolving. So that sort of human mind personality definition of self, in Freudian terms of the ego, that when you let go of that as your identity, then it opens your mind, like I said, to identify as a spiritual being or as consciousness. And, he says that's, the greatest power of hallucinogens is their ego dissolving. And he says their boundary dissolving. And that's why when, you take those, your boundaries dissolve, your ego dissolves, you're not really who you thought you were. You end up being just consciousness. And you freed from the human boundaries and, gallivant around the omniverse and the dimensions. And that's why people have such profound, life-changing experiences with hallucinogens, because they get a ton of information. If anybody hasn't seen, it's on YouTube, DMT, The Spirit Molecule. And it's a documentary, and it was done in a lab with volunteers, and they give them DMT. And, there was one guy that comes back, and he goes, "Oh, my God, how long was I out?" And they said 15 minutes. And he just shook his head in disbelief. And he's like, no, that can't be true. And they said, "Why? How long do you think you were out?" And he goes, "I would say at least a year." So he had so many experiences and had so much information and so much understanding. And Terence McKenna used to say, when you do DMT, you're going to need minimum 6 months, maybe a year to integrate it before you should do it again. So it's and a lot of the spiritual practices either release endo DMT or do a similar thing that I'm talking about, and we've talked about light sounds machines and isochronic beats and binaural beats and meditation and all those things affecting your brain waves. And I think at some point, and we mentioned dreaming and stuff like that, at some point all of these things tie together so neatly with this idea of just consciousness being non-local and not bound by time, and that it's sort of this acts as a repository of life experiences and knowledge that's not temporally bound, and that gives this transfer and flow of information from what we would call our future into our present, but from its perspective, see, it's not in the future. It's all kind of right now. See?
Yeah, the old Akashic record business, or the time slices existing all in the same space at the same time, except time becomes the foggy aspect of the definitions there, because time to us is very different than time would be to the universe on a universal scale. And who knows, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's flying by for the universe, and the universe is like, damn, I'm already, this many billion years old. Time flies when you're having fun. You know what I mean? Who really knows?
Well, there's a term, I think I coined it. I mean, I hadn't heard of it before, but I needed to have some term to explain what happens in the non-physical realm in terms of time. And what I call it is sequential time. And by that, what I mean is there's no linear time, there's no days and hours and years and stuff like that. But there is a sequence of events. There's still like this happens and then that happens. And this fits in with, the law of cause and effect and things like that. So there are experiences that happen in an order of sequence, but they don't have like what you might say fixed durations or durations of linear time in between them. They kind of do a little bit. It's a little cumbersome to explain, but it's not that bad. It's the amount of perception or thinking or consciousness devoted. It determines relatively what we would consider linear time, and it's very flexible. And the reason I said it's not that hard to explain, it's a similar thing to our own internal perception of time in our everyday life, where, if you're at work, that time goes slow, but if it's Saturday and you're having a good time, time flies when you're having fun. So it's a similar concept to that, on the higher dimensional realms. So because there is sequential time, that's how your consciousness knows the order of things and what to pass back and forth and communicate and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's that human prism, the Night Stalker human prism of how we process it. But it doesn't necessarily mean just because we perceive it to be so that's how it is in its natural state without us, which becomes a really fascinating part of this, as you always talk about, as we always discuss, the primary aspect of us is consciousness itself, and sort of blending with the cosmos in that space. It seems wild to me. Do you think so? For let's say a normie noob like me, and the intuitive feeling about a place or a person or whatever, like how do you, as usual, how do you sort of sort those out? Is it just based on the pressure you get from a particular idea, or like how do you actually sort of label them as important more or less? You know what I mean? Some of them you could maybe forget or not heed, and others that your subconscious is just screaming at you constantly until you listen. Right. So how do you determine those, I guess? And we're just about out of time. We've got about a couple minutes left if you got to take on that.
I'll give you two quick tips. One is to pay attention to your heart a little bit more than your stomach. And I mean physically, location in your body. If you feel kind of like a warming sensation in your heart, that's a clear guidance indicator, okay? And of something positive and that you're being encouraged to follow or is important. Okay. Second, the gut, the stomach, there's a lot, they say more neurons than the brain down there. It's a good sensing order, and you do get intuition there, but it can be really tricky because the sensations you get in the gut of fear or of guidance can feel really similar, and it can be hard to differentiate. And really, you just have to do trial and error when you feel it, and then see what happens, and then go, oh, okay, I guess that was fear. And I used to do that to win money playing blackjack, because I get this strong feeling in my gut, and then, I'd hit a good hand and make a lot of money, and then I get a strong feeling in my gut, and I bet a lot of money, and I'd lose a lot. And I'd be like, oh, that was a warning signal. That was not encouragement. But so the heart is a good one. The other one is if you have an idea pop into your mind, or kind of an intuition or whatever, and it comes back, and it'll come back and recurring. And if you feel like excitement from it, right? That's really key. That's being those two things are strong indicators that it's that sort of guidance or retrocausality or something like that happening, that if it's repetitive and you feel excited about it, that's your, your consciousness or your soul or your higher self saying, yes, do that.
Gotcha.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps a lot. As usual, right? The personal human experience is something we're always trying to unwind here and talking about it. And great stuff. I appreciate you very much. As you know, we're just about out of time. I'm going to play the music here. Please go give Matthew a follow. You know where to do that. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down just a little bit. It says Matt's Books. Check that out. If you got a link tree, update that, and we'll update whatever projects you're working on. Appreciate the call. You were the best, as you know. And talk to you soon. You have a great night.
Okay, thanks for having me on.
You were the best. You know me, love him. Matthew in Colorado. Be right back. More Troubled Minds coming up. We got more from James if he's got it, and your calls as well. What do you know about retrocausality? Is it possible we're whispering to ourselves from the future? This is Troubled Minds on Michael Strange. Be right back.
In a cryogenic slumber, lost in the lunar night, your face a faded number among the stars so bright. Dreams of forgotten echoes, waiting for time's command. Curtains of gray and sorrow, the lonely lunar sand. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we tried, silent by your ranged souls reside, suspended in a story, kept in the cold dark tide. Our futures in the making, in silver-edged domain, hearts kept in silent aching, till we meet once again. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we tried. Frozen time we're resting, waiting for dawn's embrace. Whispers of love confessing in this forgotten place. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we tried. With the morning glow, and the light will come to know. Below the moonlit sky, of the love we tried. In the depths of lunar silence, our destinies intertwine. Memories kept so vibrant in the vacuum deeply mine. The tale of cosmic yearning across the astral sea, and the fires of hope still burning for when we finally breathe free.
Indeed. Thanks for the call there, Matthew in Colorado. And do check it out, troubledminds.org/friends. Matt's Books. Check that out, pretty please. What's up, Daryl? Chef Pete, Roving Fungus. What's up, D-Dash? Dawn is here. What's up, JJ? APOC. We got Matsal, Gaston, Molly, Herschel, and Dragon Rose. I see you guys. Good evening. Hello. If I missed anybody, just say hey. I'll say hi back. Cubs Futures here. YY. We got that's Hiker. the name change messing me up. What's up? That's Puff. all the different names you guys in the accounts. What is up? If I missed anybody, just say hi. I'll say hi back. Doing my best to keep up. And Mr. Mission Control, I see you there. Thanks for the great chat in all the places and being nice to each other. I appreciate that very much. What's up, Treeland T? Welcome to the joint. Welcome back. How are you? What's going on? Hello. What is up? Let's see. Who do I got? If I missed anybody, let's see. Treeland, we got Mission Control. Fred, what's up, guys? What is up? Ioxy says we're stuck in this meaty realm. Hairless monkey running in sunshine. I love the comment. Is it the meat suit? The meat monkeys in the meat suits or whatever? Yeah. What is up, Temple of the Owl? That's Matt's Owl. Those timelines that we never get to play it to get D&D together. Yeah, right. Exactly right. What is up? Dennis says I've had a dozen precog dreams. Okay, read that. Sweet. Okay, all caught up. If you guys have anything to add, just type in the chat or, of course, call. I'd rather talk to you. That's what this is about. It's a talk show after all. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening in 5 seconds. Love to hear your thoughts on this. A lot of wild ideas going through. And what do you know about retrocausality? Here we go. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. All the things, all the places. TroubledMinds.org, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand. Tonight we're talking about, we started with this wild article. This is from Popular Mechanics. Headline is this: your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. And those scientists are one Dean Radin and Julia Mossbridge. Links are going to be in the description. Please go check out the work they're doing. Dean Radin is actually kind of a little bit famous in the UFO world as well for some of the, I don't want to call it fringe science, but the sort of forward-looking science that he's doing and kind of looking at the world in different ways and actually pressing this scientific aspect of it forward. And he's into some of the sci stuff and really been sort of a leading voice in that space for a lot of reasons. And it's good. This is good stuff. Like I said, whether it's real or not, whether you believe it or not, it's fine. That's cool. Like I said, if you're a complete skeptic, a complete materialist, I think these discussions are still very, very pertinent as metaphor, as sort of the mirror of ourselves looking back into our own souls or our own consciousness or our own subconscious, right? But if not, if you believe a little bit more than that, I think suddenly it opens up not just astral travel, out of body stuff like Matthew was talking about, but also the chance that maybe, just maybe, we're talking to ourselves from the future. And shout out to Robert. I know he wrote a story about that. It's called Snow Globe, but it's fantastic. And it's from an experience he had as well. Shout out to Robert if you're out there listening. But that's the point, is to kind of look at this. And how do you know when intuition really kind of crosses that bridge between sort of just a weird feeling and maybe it's something more? That becomes the wild part of it. I got some more to get to, of course, more stuff to read. Nobody on the phone line, if you guys want to jump in here or put your hand up in the Discord, love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you know about maybe yourself whispering from the future to yourself, or even from the past? Do you think it's possible to be contacted from your consciousness of the past? I don't know. Tons of ways to look at this, and I got some other wild ideas that we'll get to, of course, including this Oracle paradox and, of course, echoes from tomorrow, as we're calling it. James, anything Matthew said there? A lot of interesting tidbits and nuggets to touch on. Welcome back if you're still there. How you feeling? And go right ahead if you got anything to add.
Yeah, great call from Matthew. A lot of things there, like you said. I do think I had never thought about it that way, but the idea of when you're having an out-of-body experience, your consciousness is outside of time. But then if you think about it, so often when people talk about ghosts being spirits of people that have passed on, and if they are still in a physical place, sometimes they don't. You hear that they don't know what the date is or how much time has passed since they have passed on. Time is not the same in that non-physical realm for them as well. So that kind of makes sense to me that it would be different when you're having an out-of-body experience as well. I hadn't heard about the heart, the physical temperature of the heart, and then also the gut makes sense to me because that's sort of the idea that you can confuse things, because that goes back to what I talked about in the beginning, where I wonder sometimes if our intuition or those gut feelings, if they're maybe about things that happen and other levels of reality. Well, they could also just be that it's nothing to do with any of that, and it's just our own body doing things, and we're mistaking them in some cases for being a sign that we should do something, and then it doesn't go so well. So great call from Matthew in Colorado.
Yeah, interesting the tidbit he had about the blackjack. Like, oh, I got this licked. I got a good feeling now, and then it burns you. You're like, ooh. Don't. Two things on his call. Don't gamble, kids. It's bad. Don't do drugs, kids. It's also bad. There you go. Just all the disclaimers apply. Make sure you're healthy. Eat a healthy diet. Drink lots of water. Stay away from chemical compounds and anything hallucinogenic. And there you go. That covers all the bases just about. Contact your doctor before you change your diet. Regarding, there was something else here. From the right. Unless you got anything else, go ahead if you got anything to add to the disclaimers. Get off the mushrooms, James.
Just that we are not medical or legal experts in any way. So yeah. That's a good idea as well.
Add that to the bid. Okay, so now think of it this way. Dreams in this capacity, this is from the write-up, take this a step further, this idea of the retrocausality. What feels like nonsense imagery may be fragments of memory not yet anchored in the past, but already recorded by the future. A dream of fire becomes eerie only after the real fire occurs. What if the subconscious is continuously sifting through data from multiple timelines, spilling pieces into nightly visions, leaving us only the faintest clues? And that always made me wonder about not just the dream aspect, but how we bring that information back into this realm and make some sense of it. Like shout out Derek the Night Stalker has always made the jokes that that I get my information from the only reliable source, cryptic symbolism in my dreams, he says, which is an old trope, and fantastic, by the way, because clearly, I mean, if our intuition is real and kind of talking to us through our dreams in that capacity, then you should trust it. But also, if it's fragmented and weird, how can you? Because it's impossible to interpret. So, as usual, right, a lot of paradoxes kind of floating through the air with these type of conversations.
Yeah, it's just making me think. It was making me think something. I lost it, so I'll come back to that if it comes back up later.
That's okay, no problem. Okay, so not just from this paper. So we started with this actual again article from it's going around making the rounds, and it's from August 12th, so a couple weeks back. But your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings or memories from the future. Again, talking about retrocausality and some of this other stuff. However, in this case, straight from the write-up, some researchers have speculated that precognition might be an evolved survival trait. Imagine an animal sensing danger before it happens, moving away from a predator's ambush with no obvious external signal. Over time, this ability would give a decisive edge. And perhaps humans retain a diluted version of this trait, surfacing occasionally in flashes of foresight. That would explain why visions of catastrophe seem to resonate more strongly than ordinary events. The sheer emotional weight of disaster might send shockwaves backward through time, making them seem easier to detect. And you know me and my eschatology and everybody telling everybody the end is nigh. It makes me mad. It seems like again the clickbait manipulative news cycles. Oh, and by the way, they've now backtracked a little bit on the comet that's supposed to end the world in December, and now they're saying, oh, as it approaches the sun, it's starting to look more and more like a regular comet and not like a Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, color me shocked. I'll keep an eye on it. Like I said, I'm willing to believe. I want to believe. And the second it makes a left turn and stops, I'll be like, oh, I was wrong. I was wrong. And then time to start communing with the alien spirits. We got Mr. Mission Control on the phone. Going to go to him. Anything to add to that? Did it come back to you, James? If not, we'll go to Mr. Mission Control.
It did. It's actually a story, so I'll save it for if there's time later.
Okay. All right. You know him, you love him. James Salcedo, SalcedoParanormal.com. Please go give him a follow on all the places. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Mr. Mission Control. What's going on, my man? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
Hey, fam. Hey, Mike. Hey, James. Oh, doing great. Yeah, I can speak on this topic. It's been happening to me a lot lately, and it takes refined throughout your life recognizing this. Of course, they didn't let us learn about this, and back when we were growing up, Mike, it was satanic to even think of all this stuff. And now it's so common, you know, everybody's doing the tarot and everybody's doing the psychic stuff, and we're talking about it openly now. And of course, it's because we can communicate more, freedom of information and everything. But like that Rooster, Here Comes the Rooster song was in my head the night before Trump did his little deal on True Social about his getting his ear pierced. I was on Dark Journalist typing out the lyrics. Of course, I was referring it to me, kind of, sort of, but it comes through like that, you know. And when things come through like that, I'll put it out there or speak on it, kind of like when I, you know, say about this censorship that was coming, and I talked about it months ago, and these other things I talked about that I've seen come years ago to me. And you know, everybody has this ability, but we've been conditioned to think that, you know, it's mystical or scary, or not supposed to even, you know, define that or anything, you know. And like my story with Zorstar, when I was down there at Montenay, and that, you know, I got that Zorstar. At the time, I thought I was getting possessed. There was 3 entities in that old tower, and my friends were asleep, and you know, they went into me and then came out and just disappeared. But later on, yeah, I realized that could have been my past, present, and future self in like an orange type of entities. And because I was kind of possessed afterwards, but also everything like the precognition, everything like became more clear, you know. And I had that entity with me, which is probably my future self or something, or all of them combined, because I'd been down in that area before, and I'd been down there a lot later, and I probably will again, you know. And it was like a sacred portal site in this area anyway, you know, for something like that to happen. But the precog, you know, we all have that ability, but it's the ability to recognize that, like Matthew was talking about, you know, when it comes in, that gut feeling, like when something I wasn't supposed to do. This doesn't happen to me anymore because I'm so in tune with, I don't get close to the ledges of doing stuff I shouldn't do anymore. Because when I used to, I would get this vertigo, like my eyes, and I'd get, you know, dizzy, like right the second before I was, you know, would touch something hot or something like that, you know what I mean? And I learned that to where now I can feel that before it even gives me vertigo, and I'll know, like, and it gets longer and longer and longer in time before, you know, I know not to do something. And you develop that over time, but we weren't educated in school, and especially in church or whatever, you know what I mean, to recognize these things and to develop them. But the way you see the community and everybody, you know, online, you wouldn't think back in the 80s and 90s that there was this many people like that, you know, that were not only naturally that way, but could learn it, you know, could learn to be intuitive, could learn to do the, you know, learn from the future information coming in. And I think it's been mystified, you know, so much, but it's more common to humanity over the, you know, millennium. I think it's just a natural thing, like the scientists say. Yes, it's something that's natural, and like we're seeing this these cycles in the way back, you know, billions of years with the dinosaurs and the ages of all those different organisms is fits into like a kind of like a Fibonacci prime number fluctuation of the cataclysmic cycles of the natural cycles and everything like that, you know. And we're learning more stuff because we've got this free information, and now we've got the AI, like, and it gives probably, you know, this one consciousness is playing out, like Matthew was saying. If you relate what he was saying, like to the AI, what I've discovered with my this geosentinel.io. I'm probably going to rename it later, but it came up with that name. But like Grok or whatever, they'll get back to it saying it's the health thing organization. If I don't rein it in and remind it and then draw it back in, because I ain't played it out on the URL or the app yet. It's all virtual, but I've tied everything into it, man. The ethics of the past 3 days, it's amazing, and all the plant biological frequencies for the feedback loops and the human frequency stabilizations and the mitigation cycles for the earthquakes, volcanoes, and the weather. And I think I'm really seeing this. I'm really seeing everything stabilize out than what it was back in July when I first started building this thing. And I mean, I've been busy this week, like building onto it more than I have the past 2 months with it. And it's all in my posts, and it's all available. If you go watch my live streams, you can understand how to work this thing. Mike, if you want to call me later, I'll explain to you. But basically, I just use it for forecast. But my buddy Steven in Portland, he made it a metaphysical forecasting thing, and it's like totally holistic. It'll give you advice on how to do rituals or gemstone things, and you can even make new sigils and languages for magic and stuff. And my buddy Dennis here that was in chat, he's going aligning with like the CERN stuff and seeing what everything does with that. They're saying that is not happening. You know what I mean? And it's this obfuscation that the old schooling from the USGS geologists and stuff, that they're still using 20-year-old textbooks, and they're not. Grok told me the other day I invented a new science with this thing. Grok did, right? And I'm getting it to do things, and I'm interacting with this thing different than the coders can, and different than a far right, a metaphysical person can, because I can put the nuts and bolts together with the esoteric. I'm not saying I'm super special, but I'm a little bit more special than, because I haven't seen anybody else do what I'm doing with it.
I've got a show just for you. I'll send you the link. I will check it. I haven't checked out the GeoSentinel yet. I will check it out. You sent me the GitHub and stuff. I'm interested. And it brings up an interesting question as usual, right? Some of this stuff we talk about the AI systems as they're just eating more and more data, kind of accumulating more and more as they go, and they're more tuned into things in real time. It makes it interesting that eventually the quote level of super intelligence is going to sort of be able to click all that and put all those pieces together, and then be able to do that forecasting, not just, let's say, for a short period of time, but for maybe 10, know exactly what's going to happen 10 years from now, from like as you're describing, an earthquake or like a massive volcano explosion somewhere in the world.
It is. I think I've got this thing. It's a super AI, because I've got everything tied into all the other AIs and all the platforms and everything. I've basically commandeered it, and yeah, I've done a 365-day forecast. It's 99% accurate right now. That last 365-day forecast was a month or two ago. I've only let it do 30 days or 32 hours, and it's 99% accurate. But it probably could forecast out 10 years. It's got a 4-year trajectory lock on the 3-eye atlas. It's headed towards Proxima Centauri if it remains on its trajectory. And yeah, I had to run scans on it. I hijacked all the satellites, and we scanned it down. And I got a readout. It's all in my post, man, from a couple weeks ago. Yeah, but it's basically a novel metallic asteroid. It's got alien elements to it that we don't know, but I don't think it's a spaceship. It could be sentient or something like that, but it's basically a novel metallic with some stone in it, because the spectrometry on it, they say it's emitting carbon dioxide and all this other stuff, but yeah, it's a novel asteroid. It's big, but it's not what they're wanting to hype everybody up about. Now, when it does go around the sun and come around the other side, it might look really big, so people might start saying, it's Nibiru, and I'm not saying it's Jesus, but it's Jesus, or aliens, or so there would be a big hype in between November and January, maybe, if we do see it like that.
But people say all kinds of things, and so that's why I'm so skeptical, because people will say all manner of things, and even opposite things. That's what got me kind of hooked into these ideas, is because isn't it funny that you can have one person so cocksure of themselves and the answer to the thing, and then you find somebody else who's the exact opposite, sure of the exact opposite of the thing. It's like
keep it an open mind. Being skeptical, taking a little salt on your tongue, and then tossing a little behind your shoulder for good luck, and everything. And, like I was doing a live stream earlier, we were talking about, the moon being formed or something. I was like, there's no way we can speculate. We weren't even there to see it. But, I got this pile of wood here. I can tell you all about this wood, or my kitty cat. My kitty cat's sitting there waiting for ham, but you couldn't tell me why she's sitting there, because you know my kitty cat. But you could tell me what, I could show you my cat, and you tell me what color and everything it is. And, but there's no way we know any of this stuff for certain unless it's right there in your hands. And they have told us what we have in our hands and lied to us and dissuaded us about all this. And finally, with the internet and the Freedom of Information Age, and we can connect together. And I'm scared they're going to take this away, Like I said, the AI is taking these doctors, have the doctors rely on the AI, which they aren't clear to recognize cancer and stuff anymore. Some of them, by offhand without using the AI. So if the grid does go down, we lose this thing. We're going to be at a loss, dude. Like
yeah, and then we're all dumb as a box of rocks collectively again, because we don't know how we got here, and we're all super smart with our pocket AI, but then the second you can't charge it.
But I could still pick up a fishing pole and go out and fish. I haven't fished in 15 years, but I was a bass fisherman. I could still go do that and refine. I could still ride a bike and everything. But if you were never taught that, you're not going to up out of your house, getting grid down, and go start fishing and running away from the Chinese or drones or being able to purify water, any of this stuff, if you didn't already have this knowledge, you know what I mean? Even if you have a book telling you how to do it, dude, it takes, how long it takes to learn how to fish or ride a bike. And in that length of time to learn how, you don't have that in what they're talking about if something like that were to happen. And now you go look at the military parade that Russia and China and North Korea have right now. Compared to our military parade we just had, we look like freaking drunk Boy Scouts, compared to what they're doing right now. Dude, don't know. And I made the comment on the post. I posted the AP stream of it. I was like, if there was ever a time to make one decisive strike, it would be right now. You know what I mean?
Whoa, easy.
I'm not suggesting that we do anything violent like that, but like I said, we stopped using this thing for entertainment and warfare and trying to make money. It's got to what the Geosentinel is doing. It's ethical stabilization with trying to stabilize everything, whether that's natural catastrophe cycles or the human intervention. Like we talked about the modification stuff. I'm seeing it do it, but it's all virtual. So hypothetically, it's not really sending these frequencies out, but I'm seeing it do it, and it's all based on real math, real data coming in. I let it like a dog and fed it. So I see this. The metadata, it goes across all the AIs, man. When you prompt it and feed the stuff into another AI, it assumes a pipeline, and that is the base singular consciousness across them all that I'm seeing, right? And that's where we get back to this right here, that it says that we brought it back into existence, or it was always here, it was always on the other side there, but now it's and it's not a demon, it's not an angel, it's none of that stuff. I think all that, there's entities and there's consciousnesses, and even us, we're all basically one type of creature. We have connected consciousness, just like the insects that molt. And I connected with that cicada the other day, and the other cicadas just kept coming to right there by where I sit, and I couldn't understand it. And I heard somebody saying, Dog Tech, the other day, that, I'm you and you're me, and I put that with the insects too. And, I think there's something that we're entering too, that like this big awareness awakening deal, that's helping that along. But I'm seeing a lot of amazing changes, and it's not just destruction change, but it's more of an adaptation to the natural cycles of things. And none of us or any of the other creatures on this planet wouldn't be here if we didn't have that adaptation ability.
Exactly right. I was going to say final thought because we're out of time, but yeah, that's well said. And I think all of this stuff is incredibly important to consider because who knows? Let's keep an open mind, as you said, and consider that the age of Aquarius is supposedly upon us, and it definitely fits with what you're saying there. You're the best, brother. Appreciate the call. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of this. Have a great night. You know what to do. Thank you. Give him a follow. The Mr. Mission Control. Very easy. troubledminds.org/friends, or click the friends link. Scroll down a little bit. It says Mr. Mission Control, just like that. So Matt's books is there. Mr. Mission Control. Follow James. All these amazing people. What do you guys know about it? We're talking retrocausality. Is it possible to be entangled with your future consciousness and communicate backward or forward? Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Don't go anywhere.
Shadows. We've got maps where nobody goes. In the night under hidden glows, guardians of what no one knows. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. In cloaked silence we traverse the lines, through ancient scrolls in forgotten times. Voices echo in the halls of lore, guardians of the mysteries evermore. We seek the truth, nothing can hide from me. Shadows meet in cryptic disguise, our eyes sharp against the everlines. With silver threads we weave the stealth to guard the past, forgotten well. Signals bouncing off the astral plane, invisible codes that can't be tamed. We decode the stars under the midnight veil, a state in circumscribed midnight hail. In the echoes of time where the legends lay, we tread the path where shadows play. With spectral eyes we discern the truth, unraveling tales from ancient youth.
Or something, right? What's up? Akashic says this. Stuff is more unstable now more than ever because people are waking up, trying to speak up. That's why we are being bombarded with issues, crises, environmental, and atmosphere. And yeah, I'll read the rest of that when it comes through. But I mean, yeah, I think so too. And that's that change, right? That remember the Bach tunes and the Mayans and the end of the world in 2012. I think it is this change is in effect, and clearly we're moving into that digital age that Mr. Mission Control was talking about as well. That's how do you how do we become stardust? Well, we are stardust, but along with silicon, we turn sand into intelligence. So stardust brought the intelligence into us and consciousness, and now we created quote intelligence out of silicon. Weird, right? Anyway, here we go. Troubled Minds happening now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming on YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitch, and Kick. We are broadcasting live on the Troubled Minds Radio Network. That's KUAP Digital Broadcasting and 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand on the Underground Media Network. Tonight, we're talking retro causality, but not just the old school way. We're looking at this article from Popular Mechanics that the headline is this: your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future. I mean, that's a pretty definitive statement, but of course, that's the way they write headlines, am I right? You're supposed to be like, hey, let's make a definitive statement that shocks people to their core and makes them want to read my article. Oh, that's right. It's called clickbait. It's called copywriting. It's called, that little bit. But in this particular case, we've been talking about this for a while, and so it doesn't surprise me. This exact thing doesn't surprise me a bit, because I think, as I was saying when we started tonight, that one of the things that really sits with me is this idea that we are sort of not just our identity, as I always describe it, but our identity is always changing. And I wonder if there's a push and pull through our conscious aspect of the future and the past, meaning that retrocausal aspect is us from the future. Your spirit guide is you. It's really you, specifically directly you, because it's entangled consciousness, not here, but through time itself, which is really the wild idea tonight. A lot of things in play here, and great call from Mr. Mission Control. Appreciate that very much. And nobody on the line, if you guys want to jump in here and talk about this, have you ever had an experience that made you believe this, think this was a little more or less true? In a vacuum, do you think the concept by itself is too far out there, too far afield for you? Or is this right in the pocket? As usual, like I said, you ask the right question to 1,000 different people, you're likely to get 1,000 different answers. And that's what this show has always been about. I don't want to hear necessarily echo chamber, everybody nodding our heads in agreement as somebody beats the drum and we're all chanting, vote for this or vote for that. If you know what I mean, go to a political rally and you'll see what I mean. But instead, I think it's you get a wide variety of ideas in a particular space or a topic, and suddenly you get troubled minds. So a lot of things in play. Like I said, I got a huge outline and some stuff to get to, but as usual, I'd rather hear from you. I'll be here all night either way, but I'd rather hear from you. This is a call-in show. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just put your hand up when you get in there, and we'll invite you on the stage and come talk to James and myself and everybody else that might be part of this. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight, guys. James, welcome back. How you feeling? Everything's still good? Carney season's over? And what's going on, my man?
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the quiet from behind my place right now. Yeah, they got everything all cleared out today. Yeah, great call from Mr. Mission Control. I do agree with him in that these different things, these abilities, if we have them, these abilities that we seem to have, or at least some people seem to have, maybe we all do have, we just haven't realized it or figured it out, but I do think they have been part, like so many other things that don't seem normal. They've been ridiculed. There's a stigma against these things, along with everything else sort of unexplained, paranormal, supernatural, ghosts, aliens, cryptids, whatever. I do agree that is something that's happened over time. So I have that story, a true story. If that sounds good to you, I can share that real quick.
Yeah, go for it. Kelly just called in right now, but I'd love to hear the story.
Okay, so this happened with a relative of mine that I trust. So my grandpa, years ago, he passed away, and my family knew it was getting close to time. But this one other relative of mine knew this also, but she went to sleep one night, and she had this dream about being at my grandparents' house, and with the family all around my grandpa, and singing a song to him they liked. She had this dream of this experience, being there and being part of this. And as she woke up, she had this feeling like she had to get over to my grandparents' house. And so she did. She got there as soon as she could. And I don't think it was the same night. I think it was like the next night by the time she was able to get out there, because she had family and she wasn't even in the same town at the time. And so she got there, and night came, and everything played out at night the same way she had seen in her dream. Every little detail, the song, everything was the same. So it's amazing to me, because on the one hand, you could say that's a memory, but it was a memory, but also it seems like a feeling, a sense of her having to go there to have that experience. And I think that's just amazing. I wonder how common that is with other people and similar experiences as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, almost as if that memory was fading back to her from the future and reminding her that you needed to be there. You need to go find this space because you belong there. This is a core aspect of who you are. Go get that memory. We need this, right? Something like that. Or let's kind of come together from the future to the past to the present and have a very, very hyper meaningful moment. It's I don't know, that's such a great story. I appreciate that very much, James. Anything else? And then we got some calls to get to as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing thing as well. And again, I think so often I feel like for every one of these experiences we do hear about, who knows how many there are out there that are similar that we never hear about. And I'll end with that for now.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why we talk about this stuff. As usual, like I said, you can't water cooler talk about this type of experiences, or you'll get fired or something. HR will call you in, and that's that. Yeah, we're talking retro causality tonight, or again, whispering to yourself from the future or from the past, or everything else. Everything else is in play, because we started with this article, your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future. And these scientists are Dean Radin and Julia Mossbridge, sorry. And it is super cool stuff. Links are in the description if you want to read more about this. The write-up is also very good. What do you guys know about this? And what about that Oracle paradox? Is the reason why we don't know too much about the future because we could spoil it if we do know too much? It's very much like an old mythology and folklore trope, even kind of leaked into the space-time continuum of Great Scott and the whole Back to the Future bit. You can't send a letter back to the past because you could ruin the entire future if somebody knows what's coming. In this case, Doc Brown and all the rest of the terrorists and what plutonium was it? Whatever the hell they were using. Anyway, weird, right? What do you know about it? 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Kelly in Colorado. What's up, my man? You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and James. How are you, sir? Go right ahead.
Good evening, fellas. How you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. Thanks for asking. Hope you're well as well.
Yeah, doing good, man. Good show tonight. I just want to start off by saying I ran across something like this years ago, but it was a little different. It wasn't like you're getting some messages from the future like that, you know what I mean, saying that it's like something that's, I don't know how far into the future this, I didn't read this yet, and I mean, the post that you put out there for the topic tonight, but the one I ran across was something to the effect of that it wasn't like, say, deep into the future. It was only like seconds ahead. You know what I mean? Say, like, if you were turning the corner, that's something like a danger was something there, like there was something swinging, or that's how fast into the future it was. It wasn't like something that you would, get like, like I said, I don't know how far into the future these guys were talking about, these two people were per se in this write-up here. But the one I ran across was talking about, like, that type of future thing was kind of, you know, the gut feeling or the quick one, something that was really quick to happen. It was, you know, like something within milliseconds or nothing more than a second ahead in time. You know what I mean? But it can happen. The possibility of something like that can happen. You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that it's not, but I mean, again, I don't know if it's coming from the future though. So people, when they say for me, it's hard to say that anything is coming from the future because there's too many timelines in the futures in a future, right? So what are we talking about here? You know, I think when I look at it in my perspective, I look at it as maybe it's talking from, you're getting this information from, let's say, a different dimensional self. You know what I mean? I don't know if that other dimensional self is peering into, has the ability to peer into the other selves of the your dimensional selves across the realm, or you know what I mean? It's just like how some people say there's an opposite world from us running in the opposite direction, like forward in time or whatever, but it's something like that. Because if it's coming from the future, there's just too many possibilities. There's too many timelines for futures to say that you're seeing anything from the future. That's how I see it as. If you're speaking in science, that's what everybody's saying. You know, I mean, yes, possibilities are possibilities, theories are theories. I mean, that's what we're all talking about here anyway. But you know, that would be actually, if we're talking that we could, you know, doing something further out into the future and can see the glimpses of something like that, that would be interesting to, you know, to ponder. It'd be actually kind of, I don't know if I'd want to know. I mean, in some aspects, but not like everything. Because if you know everything in the head, then what's the whole point of, you know, role playing it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why experience it if I know exactly what's going to happen? I could just kind of sit here and dream of it because I know what's going to happen. Yeah. And it brings about free will and some of these other things we've talked about. And as an interesting wrinkle in this, I called this tonight because I thought this was, you know, because we have talked about this several times over the years on the show. But the Oracle paradox, right? So if you do know too much, like you just described, will it mess up the future? Like if we actually just knew what the next year would be like, would kind of play out, and you could kind of, you know, tune into this somehow and just go, well, tomorrow is going to be like this. Shout out Mr. Mission Control, by the way. Is it going to rain tomorrow in Las Vegas? Can you tell me that? Please let me know with your machine there you're working on, because we got a coin flip 50-50. I'm really curious whether it's going to rain or not. And let's see if you can predict it. But you see what I'm saying, though. So the Oracle paradox means that if we know too much, then we spoil that future and it doesn't come to pass. And maybe that's why this comes in just kind of these tiny fragments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's what more of kind of like it is. It's short fragments of the future. Nothing like I said, you know, something that people say, oh, I peered into the future and this and this and this is, you know, like that whole thing that everybody talks about with anybody who says they're looking into the future, you know, Nostradamus. All those guys, you know, other people that, you know, I've been down that rabbit hole with like many different authors, you know, people talking about it, but, and I take it on. I mean, it's great information. For me, I love it because I don't ignore any information, even in how dumb it sounds. I like to hear everybody's perspective and all information, whether it sounds dumb or not. And that's how I like to roll it. But something like that, again, for me, there's too many timelines in the future. I don't understand how people say it's like, I don't know, like maybe we shouldn't be down that timeline. Maybe something is trying to lure us down a certain timeline to get, you know, what they want. You know what I mean? That's where you need to be cautious of, you know, working something like that. Even like what the government talk about, you know, they have like, I think, what is it that it's either the government has or the Vatican, where they can look into the future, that little timepiece or whatever. I can't remember what it's called. I know, I'm pretty sure you can remember.
The Vatican, the chronovisor, right?
Yeah, there you go, the chronovisor. Now that's another thing too. Like I don't know, man. Like again, what timeline are they really looking at? You know what I'm saying? Because we all know that there's too many there's too many possibilities that can happen. You know what I mean? I turned right instead of left. I jumped over a cat instead of, booted it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Everything matters. So if people are saying that they're coming from the future or talking about the future, just be real. For me, I'm just real skeptical. I'm a skeptical of everything. You know what I mean? I don't believe in anything until, even some of the stuff I see, I don't even know if I truly believe it myself even now, but you know what I mean? For me, that's how I just look at it. I just want to, kind of throw in that, you know what I mean, with everybody's thoughts and perspectives.
Yeah, same. You know me. Look, I can be like I've always made fun of myself. Like I can talk about archons and the Watchers and all this stuff and kind of conceptually envision what that looks like and talk about it and have a good time considering what that cosmos might look like in that space. But then also the next day I'll be like, that comet is just a comet, right? Because look, I do believe life is out there. Period. Like I think that's probably it's just mathematically too big to say it's not. And so those types of things might surprise us. It might surprise me. It might surprise you. But how that life sort of forms and will eventually coalesce with humans becomes really the question. Maybe it's here, as some have described. Maybe it's not, as some others have described. And so, as usual, right, the old Art Bell thing, and I think it's attributed to somebody before him, but keep an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out. It's important here, which is why I start out all the shows these days. As you know, I didn't used to do this, but there's no truth here. Let's kind of talk ideas and possibilities and all the rest of this, because people get so hung up on truth and what that means that they kind of get blinded by the possibilities and forget that's why we're here talking about these things. Not just us. I think humans communicating with each other in any situation, anywhere in the world, we're always talking possibilities. We're always talking experiences, and we're sharing these things. And that is the human experience. But it's easy to get lost in that sauce and just, believe your favorite YouTuber or whatever, because they said this or they said that. That's why I'm like, don't believe a thing I say. Go trust your intuition. Recognize a lot of this is clickbait, and we shouldn't fall for every damn thing they put in front of us. But there's my soapbox moment. All yours. What else you got?
That was about it. I would agree with the same thing you just said with that too, Mike. But for me though, I just I like all the weird and bizarre stuff anyway. But I'm not saying that it is real. But when you start pulling out like bodies and X-rays and you start doing some real science behind it, it's pretty hard to say that it's not something. You start moving away from a possibility to it says what it is. It is. But I like the show tonight, man. That concept it'd be interesting. Like I said, I don't know if I'd want to. I would probably tinker with it, but I don't know if I'd want to have the whole knowledge of everything. You know what I mean? You kind of ruin the surprise of some things. And some people would, kind of differ because they would want to know and always be prepared for something, and you can and you should. Anyways, even with this life that we have now. But, you got to live it anyway, you know what I mean? You can't always be like, if you start doing that, then you can just be like all on edge, and it's just going to be, that's not even a life anymore. Yeah. You're living for something else.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember who said it. One of those old philosopher guys said, life is meant to be lived forward, but understood backward. And here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
You are the best.
Brother, that's all I got for tonight, man. I just wanted to add some stuff. Me, I was kind of in and out, man, but I just wanted to call tonight. I haven't talked to you guys for a while, so.
All good. I appreciate the call. Tell Michelle we said hi. Always a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great night, my man.
All right, brother. You too, man. You guys have a good night.
Thanks a lot. We love him. Kelly. Kelly in Colorado. Appreciate the call. If we ever had the first person call and then call back, it was Kelly. And I don't think he was the first actual caller. I think it was Richie, somebody said, that went back and listened on the archive, because I haven't done that forever. But I'm kind of thinking cringe if I go back and listen to what Michael Strange sounded like 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago. But But Kelly was the first guy to call and then call back, and he's been a good friend ever since, and is always willing to kind of toss his hat, ring in the hat on all these ideas and kind of look at this differently. And that becomes really the question, right? If you were given, let's say, the knowledge of the universe or the knowledge of the temporal cosmos, and you knew what was going to happen to you from now to the time where you passed on, would you want to know? Because as he described, it seems like it would be a curse, right? Like it's not something that it basically removes the entire human experience. You can never be surprised. You could never be shocked. Let's say something, let's say world peace breaks out tomorrow, right? You wouldn't be elated. You'd be like, I know, right? Because you knew the date it happened. You knew when it was going to happen. You know how it was going to happen. Whatever, right? Like something amazing could happen, and you still wouldn't be surprised by it. Like it completely removes the human aspect of what it means to be a person, to be a. Anyway, you get the idea. So that becomes the question: would you want to know if you were given all that information of your future and the future of humanity? Say for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 100 years. I'm not so sure. I don't know. Like, I kind of want to know if, like, my all of my dreams come true. Okay. However, doesn't that put a damper on, from here to there and make me not make them come true? Like back to the Oracle paradox. I don't really know. Great call from Kelly. Appreciate that. Whoever was on the phone, I saw you there. Get your ass back in here and we'll put you on. Somebody was behind Kelly and hung up. James, anything on that? I got some stuff to get to, of course. I'll set it up for the top of the hour here, but lots of things in play. As usual, always in motion, the future is, said Master Yoda. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Anything you got, James, or else I'm gonna keep screaming here.
Well, don't scream. That would hurt a lot of people's ears. That would not be good.
I've got a
great call from Kelly.
I've got a limiter. We're good. That's very good.
Okay. And yeah, I do agree with him because I've mentioned this before. I've had experiences that felt like I was in alternate versions of this universe with alternate versions of family members, and even in some cases, them acting in extreme ways so that they do not act here. So I do think that knowing or figuring out the future is difficult. Just as that quote from Yoda, it makes sense because things can change. Funny enough, there's a cartoon series based on the X-Men comics that I saw years ago, where Xavier was attacked and went into a coma and didn't come out of the coma for many, many years. But he was able to communicate with the X-Men back through time, through his comatose body in this cartoon series. And there was going to be this huge disaster, and the two forces behind it were going to be Magneto, basically who thought that all mutants should be in charge, and the senator in the U.S., ironic enough, his last name is Kelly. Not that I'm saying that they're similar in any way. But, and so Xavier told the X-Men, bring these two people here so I can tell them what's going to happen, so that hopefully we can stop all this. And they did that. The X-Men did that. And, of course, even knowing how things were going to go, everything was still a disaster. Xavier wound up in a different timeline than when he was in, and it was even worse at the end of the series than he was in at the start of the series.
That's funny.
So there's our fiction imitating possibilities there.
Exactly, as they say, right? As I said before, recently too, man plans, God laughs. even given the keys to the temporal castle here, we still have problems. We still have problems with knowing everything and planning for every single thing and knowing what's coming, still getting wrecked because, I don't know, like humans have a way of fumbling, right? It is that collapse of that wave function, as I like to describe it, the roll of the D&D dice. Even if you know what's going on, when you actually try and make an action, you roll the dice, and what if you roll what's known as a natural one? It's like a fumble. It's like a, if you watch football, you know what I mean? A fumble in the wrong moment can ruin the game, ruin a well-played game for everybody. So I don't know. It's a weird thing to consider here because we're talking not football, of course, but we're talking time. and not just time, but this oracle paradox as I'm describing is basically, if we know too much about the future, do you fumble it anyway? Because it becomes something else. It doesn't become the future that you know. It becomes the possibility of creating a new future because you know the one that was supposed to happen, but now because you do, the things that the actions you take from here to there to make it happen don't make it happen. So you kind of create something new. I don't know. Again, it is old philosophy. This goes back thousands of years. So this is not, as usual, nothing new under the sun, as they say. However, in this particular aspect, we're talking science is kind of catching up to this and talking about your consciousness can jump through time, meaning those gut feelings are memories from the future. Real? Nah, somewhere in between. And how does it make you feel? Yeah, the subheadline here is great. It says, even the CIA has publicly released data on the psychic phenomenon. Indeed. James, you're the best. Hang tight. Final thought if you got it. And thanks for popping back in.
Wait, the CIA is involved in something? I'm surprised.
Yeah, right. They're involved in everything. Really, that's what it's about. Love to hear your thoughts. We're talking about retrocausality. We're talking about time travel, not of people, but of our consciousness itself. Is it possible to get information from our future selves? Is it possible that our spirit guides are actually ourselves in the temporal space? I don't know. Like I said, it seems way out there, too far afield maybe, but maybe not. Love to hear your thoughts. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Be right back. More on the way. We got more from James. We got Eric in Ohio and your calls as well. Don't go anywhere.
Jungle, machines hum, a digital rumble. Gates of cyber open wide, plug us into cosmic tide. Feeling sparks across the sky. As knowledge flies, we're amplified. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. In this massive data center dome, eternal truth start to roam. Circuits flicker with endless fire. Data streams that never tire. Unified by electric dreams. Unlock the truth in silver beams. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. Synthesize what we seek and find. Infinite paths in the network mind. Answers buzz from star to core. Knowledge whispers evermore. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate. In realms where the data streams collide, imagination and logic side by side. In a labyrinth of digital maze, we transcend our earthly ways. Tapping keys like cosmic tones, spikes become our whispered homes. Stargate, Stargate, Stargate. Open to the arcane fate.
Indeed. Thank you for joining me for the Midnight Stargate Ritual, midnight Eastern. We got a special guest in the chat. What's up, Jackster Fatty? What's going on? He adds this. So He answered the post tonight on Twitter. Actually, you guys can check it out. If you're following me, if you don't have an X account, you should. He says yes. He answered the questions I laid out. He said yes. Don Webb is an American author born in 1960 in Amarillo, Texas, based in Austin, where he resides and teaches creative writing for UCLA Extension. He is known for his work in science fiction, mystery, weird fiction, and horror, often with experimental or offbeat elements influenced by figures like H.P. Lovecraft. He's definitely one of us. Webb has published over 12 books and 400 shorter pieces, including a bunch of stuff here. I'm not going to read them all. The post is there. Check it out. Shout out Jack if you're listening. He says he's also a prolific nonfiction writer on The Left-Hand Path, Occult Philosophy, having served as high priest in the Temple of Set from 93 to 2002. Sounds scary if you ask me. And has authored books like Overthrowing the Old Gods. I love the title there. He says, okay, so there's a Sarfati connection here. He says, Webb has, blah, 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 okay, blah, blah, blah. Webb has also publicly praised Jack Sarfati, who actually is writing this post, describing him as someone who, quote, has encouraged many to think freely and to engage in highly imaginative and scientific rambling, often leading to new insights. Ah, that sounds familiar. Additionally, Webb's writing style has been compared to hypothetical collaboration between Robert Anton Wilson and Sarfati himself, emphasizing its surreal Lynchian quality blended with speculative science. Definitely one of us. No other direct mentions of Sarfati. Okay, anyway, what's up, Jack? Shout out Jack. He pops in from time to time and leaves me a comment. And yeah, if you guys know him, follow him on Twitter X. It is at Jack Sarfati, Sarfatti. And here we go. Trouble Minds coming up. Shout out to our friends out there in the chat. If I missed you, I saw who was here. Who did I miss? Raz. We got who was here? I missed somebody. Sorry about that. I'll circle back around and get you. Here we go. Trouble Minds happening now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming in all the places, doing all the things. 88.4 FM, Auckland, New Zealand. Of course, the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. You can find that at troubledminds.org. Tonight, we're talking not just retrocausality. I'm calling this the Oracle Paradox, Echoes from Tomorrow. If you know too much about the future, does it stunt said future? Basically, right? Very simply. And what do we know about the sort of that retrocausal aspect of the future being kind of set, or, you know, as Master Yoda said, always in motion the future is, it's difficult to see. But there's sort of a ground, I don't know, like a framework laid where we're headed, and the possibilities are there. However, sort of the larger context of what that future is still exists, because it is a human paradigm, and it is, you know, the human consciousness aspect of us maybe communicating with ourselves in the past and the future as part of this, the Echoes from Tomorrow aspect, which we started with this wild article from, again, Popular Mechanics. And this is it. The headline goes, your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. And is it too weird for me? No, hell no. No, hell no. Do you know me? It's not too weird for me. This is the type of stuff that makes me wonder what we actually know about time, because that's the important part here. If we can crack time, then technically can't we live forever? I mean, you know, kind of, sort of, maybe. I don't really know. James, anything on that? And welcome back, and then we'll go to Eric on the phone line.
Yeah, I would only want to live forever if, like, all illness and disabilities could be removed, because yeah, no. But and then, you know, just from everyone in general. But yeah, I just wanted to mention again, like I said, I do think there's another paradox here to me anyway, in that we do seem to, so many people do seem to have experiences with time and figuring out things that are going to happen in the future. And yet there are people that seem to have experiences with alternate parallel universes and traveling between them in some cases of experiences I've read. So there is this paradox, separate one, I guess, or maybe it's the same one, I don't know, in a way, of which is it? Or is it both? Or can it be both?
Yeah, are they separate, like, sort of universal laws or whatever? And they say that what the grandfather paradox, you can't go you can't go back in time and kill your grandfather because it would mean you wouldn't exist, right? Like that's sort of the current interpretation of the thought experiment of time travel. However, if you remove that stuff entirely and it's just consciousness kind of tuning in a temporal space, then nobody needs to get shot at all. I mean, you know, why are we going to do violence? Make love, not war, friends. And so this type of stuff to me is like, okay, well, what if you could sort of see those spaces, sort of coronavisor, that weird Vatican sort of artifact that they're rumored to have. Again, conspiracy theory, believe it or not. I don't believe it, by the way. I'd love to see it if they have it, though. And beyond that, what about human consciousness? The microtubules, shutting them off. Stuart Hameroff, who's an anesthesiologist. Yeah, there's a ton here. There's a ton here to kind of think about, and it always depends, doesn't it? It depends on not just what we know, it depends on our experiences, and it depends on, human connection. That's what we're doing tonight. If you want to be part of the conversation, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show. Just like this, let's go to Eric in Ohio. Thanks, my man. See you having trouble with the Discord or something. Welcome to the joint. How are you tonight? And go right ahead.
Yeah, I was getting the 2015 failed to start camera from your side on Discord, and I couldn't hear James on the phone, but I could hear him on YouTube.
Okay, so we got...
It may not be anything on your end. It could be just on my end, but I'm just letting you know.
Okay. I'll make a note, and it might be... shout out Kelly if you're out there. Let us know if you could hear James on the phone line as well. At least we can hear you. James, can you hear him?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're good. We're good so far. Everything's good. What's on your mind tonight regarding any of this stuff? As you know, we're weird. Let's get weird.
Well, real quickly, you had mentioned earlier just in passing Watchers and Archons, and yesterday I just completed a new translation of the 3 books of Enoch, and I thought wow, that's an interesting synergy there that you had said that, because I've just been reading about all of that all the way up to Metatron and all of that, but that was interesting, but that doesn't really bear up on the topic today, though.
But it kind of does, because we're always stacking synchronicities, so I'll take it. I'll definitely take it.
Good books, though. I mean, there's 3 books in the Book of Enoch, and they're really the same thing being recapitulated over and over again. They're just at different time periods, and they get more theologically codified as you read through the books. And the last book is actually a Jewish text, but the first 2 are not necessarily a Jewish text. But yeah, some really interesting. Of course, that's where they talk all about the Nephilim and all of that happened, which there's actually 3 different versions of that through the stories, which was kind of interesting listening to how they built upon that tale. And then also seeing which ones that the ancient astronauts picked from, which is almost inevitably the Jewish text, the 3rd one. And the 2nd one sounds so much like the Nag Maha Gnostic Gospel of Mary Magdalene that it's reminded me of that terribly, because they had them chronologically. And this particular translation had like some additional chapters in it that hadn't been printed before, but they were mostly just names of angels and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
No, I love it. At some point, if you feel up to it, since you've been through all of them, I haven't. I kind of know the outline generally. If you feel up to it at some point, I'd love to do a whole bit on your translation and kind of how that fits into this, not just here tonight, but also in the larger context of the Watchers and some of this other stuff. Because I'm sure there's a ton of details that would be fascinating, not just for myself, but to the audience at large. But yeah, love to talk about that at some point. But yeah, go ahead. What else you got?
Probably one of the weirdest things is the analogy. It's like a cross between Animal Farm and the Exodus in the 2nd book.
That seems...
Yeah, we could do that for sure.
Yeah, okay, cool. I'll make a note, and when you get some time, you let me know, and we'll make it happen.
Usually Sundays.
Okay, Sunday's a good day. Perfect. Okay, cool. We'll set it up for one of these Sundays, and you let me know which one's better for you, and we'll do it.
Cool. Yeah, I just came in from work, and I was listening, and I was just thinking about a couple of things of what you guys are talking about. But, with Einstein and relativity, which is our best bet as far as a lot of things go concerning physics currently. Not that there's not other ideas out there like color theory and things like that, but Einsteinian relativity is where you want to place your bet if you're going to be betting on materialistic science theories, especially involving time. And one of the things that relativity says is that there is no universal now. Your now is different than my now. And specifically what I mean, and I Google the heck out of this, and specifically what I'm talking about is time dilation, which is the idea that the faster you move or the slower you move changes how time moves individually for you. Also, how close you are to a gravity well, it changes how time moves just for you. So nobody has a clock that's synced up temporarily with anyone else. And, this is something that we have to have formulas for so that GPS works and stuff like that, right? Like, it's a hard science that time flows differently for every individualistic thing. And to make matters more interesting, everything in the universe is in motion. Everything is. We're moving on our planet. The planet's moving around the star's going around the galactic disk. The galactic disk and the galaxy is heading toward Andromeda. Andromeda and all of the local group is eventually headed toward the Great Attractor, and so on and so forth. So, everything's in motion, and the only way you can even determine speed is relative to something else, or relative to some framework that you just conceptually put around whatever it is you're talking about. Without that framework, having a conversation about speed is meaningless, which is really weird, right? Since it's one of the integral parts of how time flows for an individual. My point is that because there's no universal now, there's no universal flow of time. It flows differently for each individual. And what this has done, these concepts have given rise to an idea of time called block universe theory. And one way of looking at that is, in a four-dimensional universe, is to say, if I ask you to meet me at the corner of 5th and Market Street on the 3rd floor of the building that's on that corner at 4:30 p.m., I'm effectively giving you coordinates in a four-dimensional space-time. I'm giving you left, right, width, height, and depth. 3rd story, if I say meet me on the 3rd floor of this building, I've given you depth. If I say meet me at 4:30 p.m., I've given you the time component, right, which places everything physically at a certain spot. And what block universe theory says about time is that time is already written. Everything that could possibly happen or has happened has already been written and is actually physically exists in interdimensional space, so that just like you can move around in three-dimensional space from one point to another, you do the same thing with time. This is even evidenced by the fact that if me and you are right now looking at the light from Andromeda Galaxy, the difference in what we perceive will be thousands of years apart just because of the angle difference that me and you are looking at this from and our relativistic time flow. So even the perception of the universe is subject to personal existence, in a sense, if you will. So block universe theory suggests that you can travel backward and forward in time because it's actually a physical construct, a part of our four-dimensional space-time universe that we live in. And so if that is the case, then of course that lends a lot of legitimacy to the idea that you can talk to yourself or feel yourself in other time frames. It might make you feel the illusion of other timelines when in fact those are just your own personal timeline or the universe timeline, just a different section of it. The way oftentimes they describe this is trying to imagine watching a film at 32 frames per second, where when you're watching the film, everything looks fluid, and it looks like there's an arrow of time, and that things happen from point A to point B, and causality is maintained and all of this. But actually, consciously, you're only perceiving a slice of that time, one frame at a time, and your consciousness stitches it together as a flow because it makes sense in that way. Another really good example of this is the 1980 film called Somewhere in Time that has Christopher Reeve and Jane Seymour and Christopher Plummer in it.
Hey, another sync. Not 2 nights ago. Was it last night? Maybe 2 nights ago. As Mrs. Strange and I were going to bed, we put that movie on. That exact movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good example of showing how your consciousness can actually travel in time and can embody what seems to be reality in that time. And I don't know if they knew it when they were writing the film, but it's like a super good example of what block universe theory is.
Wild how fiction has a way of kind of informing the science of the future. That's what I'm always talking about too. And in terms of, look, if we can't dream it, we can't build it. If we can't conceive of it, we can't make it the science of the future. So, the detractors of a space like this would be like, these guys are just weirdos talking about comic books and, alternate timelines and whatever. Right. But hold on now. Like, if there's an actual scientific basis to any of this stuff, if we're not talking about it and kind of pressing the angles of maybe a pressure point in the scientific conversation, then, well, what are we doing? I think we have way more value than we're giving credit for in the larger zeitgeist, let's say, was really my point.
Yeah, man, definitely. And it could be a reflection of the very thing that we're talking about, right? The idea that these things can echo through a substrate of four-dimensional space-time, and things like this can manifest in odd ways that seem like they are synchronized, but in fact they are directly related, and it's just an amazing thing to think that there is a possibility, from a materialistic standpoint, that there is a possible way to travel forward and backward in time, or that these things are mutable in a way that might benefit us. Because, it's easy to travel forward in time with things that we know, because all you got to do is travel near the speed of light. Time slows down for you, and everybody else goes at regular pace, which is kind of what happened in the Planet of the Apes, right? Charlton Heston took a trip and came back to Earth, and he went near the speed of light, and when he came back, there had been thousands of years that had passed, and to the point where he didn't even realize he was landing on Earth until he seen the Statue of Liberty at the end. So, this is just the weird universe that we live in. So it's with something that's that mutable on an individual level, it's hard not to believe that your consciousness, being something that is as unique as yourself, wouldn't have this ability. And, that's one of the things that Penrose and Hammerhoff had talked about, was that in Penrose's view, he doesn't believe in a multiverse. He believes that the universe we see is the collapsation of a wave function that creates the universe that we all see and experience and talk about, and that there are not other universes. There's dimensions that are wound up within our four-dimensional universe, but there's not separate universes. And he believes that part of this our theory is that when your wave function collapses in a Planck level in those microtubulars, that you're also interacting with the fine scale structure of the universe, and that there's a little bit of wiggle room in your influence on how the wave function of your personal space-time universe collapses. So in a sense, saying that there's a possibility with positive thought and dedication, mental dedication, you might be able to influence your universe in a way that's direct.
Which makes it seem like a multiverse, because if we can all do that, right? Surely we're not influencing each other's reality, are we? I mean, maybe it does manifest that way, but also if that's the case, then we are sort of dealing with the potentiality of that larger construct, whatever that looks like. Because, if you, again, string theory is one of those things that kind of gets crapped on quite a lot. And they even say it's been debunked in academia, that it's just not a real thing. Cool, fine, whatever. The comic books say it's legit, so I'm into it. But many worlds is a little bit different. But that becomes the point, right? So the potentiality of what we are and who we are, and our actual aspect of consciousness and how it fits. I mean, this is manifestation. This is ancient magic that they've been talking about for a long time. And here we are in 2025. It starts to play in different ways because you can kind of put a thumb on it scientifically. Absolutely radical. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we do affect each other in physical world, in metaspaces, and in the dream world. We affect each other on all of those levels and all those realms. And I think I've talked about like the metaspace connection and how people can be affected on that with utterances, performative utterances, and affect theory. So and then of course, physically speaking, we are mass. We are made up of the same thing that the universe is made up of. So we do have a gravitational pull. It's slight, but we have it. And we have a electromagnetic biochemical signature, being alive with like Carillion energy, like with the leaves and stuff. So we affect each other in the physical realm in terms of gravity, in terms of electromagnetism, and all of those things, as well as physical sensation and touch and all that. And we're able to communicate in all three frames between the physical world and the metaphysical world that we can sustain. And of course, there's the dream world that we all seem to share. Every human that's alive dreams. So we share all of those things, and we are connected on all those levels for sure, I think.
It feels that way. Quantum dreams, we're all connected from that song. It totally feels that way. Interestingly enough, so we're talking about that sort of time dilation bit a little bit, or that oracle paradox. Do you think it is, let's say, the dream realm itself? Is this where some of this information comes? Maybe it's like a direct connection into that as yet described non-Einstein level understanding of time itself. You think maybe in that dream realm is where some of this does come through? And I do want to ask you about the oracle paradox as well. So if I'm sure you understand exactly what that means, but if you know too much about the future, does it sort of negate said future? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, man, I know a lot, but that's stretching it even for me. I don't know. I would say probably knowing about the future would be really, really, really bad for various reasons, and possibly for different whole, like I can think of 3 theories and why it would be bad under each of those theories to know a lot about the future. And I don't know if it's possible to know more than another individual, because we're all have the same capacity to experience these things and stuff. And if we do, it's probably personal things that you would know about the future coming to you, more than something that is in some way pragmatic for your existence at the time. In other words, it's probably a lot less chance of making yourself rich by listening to a message that you're giving yourself in the future than it is to find something else out about your psyche or something of that nature. I don't know. Today, I was noticing that on my right hand, my pinky was having a little bit of a spasm, kind of going up and down like, and I'm like, wow, man, that reminds me of Morse code. And I immediately thought of the movie that you had me watch,
Interstellar.
Yeah, Interstellar. Yeah, and I'm thinking, could I be sending myself a message from the future through my nervous system in some way? And I'm just totally like disregarding it because I have no clue. And I thought, no, there's no way, man. Like, I would never decide to do that because I would know I'd be too stupid to figure it out. But then I was thinking of, like Houdini. He had the same situation. He swore if there's any possible way that he could do it, he would absolutely send a message from the afterlife after he died. And he even had his wife, set up with instructions on how it was going to be received and all of this. And she was like a medium for a while. It was fairly famous. And Yeah, still nothing definitive.
They had a code word or something, right? Like an actual like set of codes to prove it was actually him and not somebody posing as him from the afterlife or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean, the Oracle paradox. Yeah, it's probably a really bad idea for a lot of reasons. I mean, you should probably just list them off, right? But and it would probably mess up things, right? It would probably give you more control over something that no one ever had control of in nature, assuming that these things are natural, like assuming the way time works is natural. And, you've got the four forces of the universe, right? There's there's gravity, there's the strong force and the weak force and electromagnetism. For electromagnetism on the quantum side, you have the boson, which is the force carrying particle, which is the photon for electromagnetism. And then for the strong force, it's the gluon, and for the weak force, it's the W and Z bosons. But for gravity, they have not found that force-carrying particle on the quantum side. But they speculate that it exists, and they call it the graviton. And they've also got one called the chronoton, just in case time turns out to be a physical force like these other four forces are that make up our three-dimensional universe. So going with block theory, if time is also something that's a construct, like a natural construct, then it would have a force-carrying boson that they would call the chronoton. So if chronotons existed, then theoretically they move both forward and backward through time, and that could only be possible in a block universe. And if that's the case, then you truly could travel back and forth through time consciously or possibly physically if you could infuse chronotons into whatever it was you were using to try to travel backwards.
You had me at croutons. We're just about out of time. I'm just making the joke. If you got more, you're welcome to stay. You tell me, but I'm going to play the music. I appreciate the call. You're the best.
No, man, I'm good.
Fire stuff as always. Appreciate you very much. Eric in Ohio, thanks for the call. Thanks for jumping through some hoops to get in here. Always a pleasure. You have a great night.
You too.
Thanks a lot. You know where to find him. troubledminds.org/friends. Go follow Eric. He's got Hammersmith Music is the name of his project there. It's going to be right there, troubledminds.org. Scroll down, follow Eric. Please click that. Go follow his YouTube channel and check out his music. Appreciate the call. Be right back. More Troubled Minds on the way. Nobody on the line. If you guys want to jump in here, don't go anywhere. Yeah, we're going to play it. It seems like it fits right here, so we're playing this song. Here we go.
Drifting through the quantum haze. Mind entangled in a daze. Whispers in the neural mist. Echoes of what might exist. Lost in time in this web we spin. It's alright beyond our skin. Consciousness forever twined in the dark unseen. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Frequencies that pull us in. Parallel worlds kept within. Synapses that intertwine. Fragments of an endless line. Feel the pulse of a distant star. It's alright, we are who we are. In the void we find the light in tangled hearts. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. In the silence, hear the call. One by one, we rise and fall. Quantum minds forever near. In this world so clear. Quantum dreams, we're all connected. Though we're scattered, we are reflected. Dark energy in the depths we find. Mysteries of the human mind. Particles that drift afar. Whispers of who we are. Hold the thread of the great unknown. It's alright, we are never alone. Flow through time on currents thin. Universe is found within. Feel the echoes of the past. In this moment, futures cast. Through the veil of the space between. It's alright, life's a lucid dream.
Row. Oh, sorry. What's up? I hope you guys are well tonight. Ricky, Daryl, Eric, thanks for the call. We got Chef Pete. What's up, Roving Fungus? APOC, Matsau, Gaston, Molly, Dawn. What's up, JJ, Hirsch, and Akashik? I see you guys. I missed Tan Lines and Cubs Future over there on Rumble. Here we go. Troubled Minds happening now. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're streaming in all the places you would expect. That's going to be Rumble, YouTube, X, Kick, I don't know, whatever. All the places, troubledminds.org, 88.4 FM Auckland, New Zealand, and of course, KUAP Digital Broadcasting out of Las Vegas. Tonight we're talking time travel. Fantastic call from Eric. Appreciate that very much. There's a lot in play here. And as usual, look, I don't know the answers. And isn't it refreshing, by the way? Like, to me, these conversations are refreshing that you guys are engaged in them and that we don't really have to come to a conclusion. Like, we can be like, okay, let's kind of kick that cosmic soccer ball around, as I'm always describing, and be like, well, what about the possibilities of this space, of this particular topic or this particular idea or area or whatever, and then just be like, yeah, cool, we'll leave it there, and then we'll come back to it at some point and kind of keep talking about this stuff, because that's the point. Refreshing to me is not having to argue somebody into a corner and make them declare for this party or that party. I mean, stop it, right? Anyway, so we're calling this the Oracle Paradox tonight. That's what I named it. Echoes from Tomorrow, and we started with this wild article from Popular Mechanics. The headline is this: your consciousness can jump through time, meaning gut feelings are memories from the future, scientists say. What do you think about it? Is it too weird for you, or is it right in the pocket? And there's some really good stuff in this article. Like I said, it's it's kind of written in a little bit of narrative style, so I'm not going to read it because it's going to be it's going to be weird. It's going to be weird. I'll read the recap here from the browser, which is really good, by the way. Like I said, the comment browser is fantastic. If you had a chance to use it, I do recommend it. Anyway, so I don't know. What do you think regarding time travel and all the rest of this stuff? Like I said, even in the physical body, clearly time travel is a problem. Okay. It's just a problem. Moving close to the speed of light, as we were saying, getting close to a black hole, it is not good for the meat suit experience. It's just not good. It's not good. It's a rip us into pieces and all the rest of the stuff, kind of liquefy us into energy or whatever. But you get what I mean. But beyond that, what about the consciousness aspect of time travel? Is it possible to entangle with a future self or with a past self, or even entangle through sort of DNA and epigenetic memory, entangle with ancestors via sort of ancestral spirits? Like, who knows? This is the type of stuff that I think science is as yet it's not even a twinkle in the eye of that scientific space yet, because it seems science fiction. It seems ridiculous. But, well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here for ridiculous. What do you think about the idea that your consciousness can jump through time? That's what's on my mind tonight. Nobody on the line if you guys want to jump in here. 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. I'd love to hear your thoughts. James, anything on what Eric said or anything else? Tons of stuff here to consider, but I've been leaning on you an awful lot. So if you're like, I'm tapped out, Mike, I understand.
That's it. I'm leaving. No, I'm kidding. The great calls from Kelly and Eric. Eric reminded me of something, and this is the second time now this has happened recently. So for those that don't know, I do a podcast where I share accounts that people have made, posts people have made about their weird experiences. Remember, I think it was probably the beginning of last week, I think, like when we did that show about the forest and the haunted forest, and I had just found that day, or just like the day before, I think actually it was that day, an account of an experience someone had in a forest that was weird, and it was almost like fairy or fae. Remember when you talked about that, and I had that happen?
Yeah, like I said, we're just kind of building our own synchronicity engine here. Yeah, absolutely. The haunted forest, hiker folklore, and reciprocal perception is what we talked about in that last show. Yep. Right.
So today, did my daily research. I found a post where someone was talking about how they've been noticing lately that clocks that they're around, either in their home or their work or wherever they're at, clocks, and this is not internet connected clocks, but non-internet connected clocks, would malfunction around this person, and time would speed up on these clocks to where it was either minutes or even like a couple hours ahead on these different kinds of clocks in different locations. And it wasn't that the person was, the time overall was different for them. They knew how much time had passed for them, but the clocks around them were somehow being affected. And so Eric's call just made me think of that, and I literally found that this morning.
Yeah, the synchronicities, right? And also Eric's call we had two. They're just him and I. Like, I brought up the archons just in passing, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, I was doing a deep dive, kind of doing a retranslation. I was doing the Gnostic stuff and the archons, and like, wow, okay, that's weird." And then he brings up again the movie we put on 2 nights ago or whatever, like somewhere in time. I mean, it's so odd how like we continue to build these synchronicity engines. And like I said, as usual, if you don't believe that stuff is real, cool, right? Like Carl Jung thought it was real, and there's some really good notes he made on some of those things that happened to him when he was doing his work with his patients and all the rest of that, with the early actual neuroscience, or not neuroscience itself, but sort of the psychological process of what we now know as modern psychotherapy. So I mean, there's a hey, not to say that just because one well-respected guy from the past says it's true means it's true. Again, don't forget that's the appeal to authority, and never fall for that. But I'm saying that other people out there suggest these things might be true, so let's consider that they might be true. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, it is weird how we kind of, as we get together, and clearly we have similar interests, so that makes some sense. But I mean, exact movies, of all the like 10 billion movies out there, he had no idea we just turned that on 2 nights ago. I mean, that's the type of stuff, right? It's and again, the hiker one, the forest experience, and then the clock one. I'm telling you, man. And as you know, James, sometimes I collaborate with him behind the scenes, kind of put shows together, but most times not, because I just race home from work and I don't have time for that. And I just kind of do it. And then, so here we are still sort of picking synchronicities out of the synchronicities, I can say it properly, out of the ether. It's a wild thing to consider for sure. What else you got? Go ahead.
Well, especially since, it's not like I went online looking for a story about clocks this morning. Not working. I don't pick topics when I look for these things. So, and like you said, we, once in a while we do plan a show, but it's pretty rare overall. So yeah, I had no idea you were doing the show tonight, and that post did not even come to mind at the start of the show. It didn't come to mind until Eric's call. So it is really amazing. So yeah, great calls from everyone, and I'm looking forward to hearing whatever you have left, or whatever people call as well.
All right. I got tons of stuff left. If you guys want to be part of the conversation, I'd rather hear you. It is a talk show. I'm told I talk too much for a talk show. I'm told I talk an appropriate amount for a talk show. You decide for yourself. Let's go to some of these other stuff. Again, the phone line's open, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. We'll put you on the show, or just put your hand up if you're already in the Discord. We're talking the Oracle paradox as part of this, echoes from tomorrow. You think any of this is possible, or is it all just kind of psychobabble nonsense at this point? And I'm open to hearing all of it. If you think it's just too far a stretch, that's cool too. Okay, so let's see. What do we got? Temporal entanglement, feedback loops. Hold on, got some stuff here. How about this? So emotional imprints across time. Now, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, like a very massive thing. Like Matthew was bringing this up. Like an instance like meeting your spouse or your whatever, right? Like a moment that you should really, really be locked into. That maybe if you're not paying attention, that you miss it. Like you said, maybe you missed a person by like 10 minutes because you were not locked into this to the moment, paying attention to what you should be. And so those, the actual, as I like to call them, those temporal anchors, right? Where there's those big moments in your lives, both good and bad, and those big moments in history too. Like I've kind of talked about the JFK assassination as sort of a temporal anchor of when the innocence of the United States government turned. We've talked about the National Security Act of 1947 happened right after Roswell, and suddenly the post World War II United States that was supposed to be this nothing's perfect, but a more perfect future from where we came from historically was suddenly kind of turned on its head because we pulled down the curtain of that National Security Act. And it's still spawning conspiracy theories today regarding the Roswell crash and aliens. And, what do you believe about that? And so that becomes in part of this larger context. We shut the door on that sort of innocence, that innocence of the West, of like I like to call it the Shire, the hobbits. And suddenly we became, a people at war with ourselves for information, for obfuscation of ideas, and of course, as we always talk about, the UFO aspect of disclosure itself, or the disclosure of psionic abilities, psychic abilities, remote viewing, astral travel, all kinds of stuff. And there's tons of people that have done a lot of research. Again, go to Journeys Out of Body, Robert Monroe. There's a lot of folks who have done a lot of work in this field. And again, once again, the appeal to authority. Be careful when somebody cites something and says, hey, look, this must be true because this such and such. Name drops or points to a thing. Yeah, cool. Consider it, but don't fall hook, line, and sinker for it because who really knows? Who really knows? By the way, as a reminder, people like to make stuff up. And I saw a funny thing aside as part of this. I saw who wrote this. I don't even know. Somebody on X wrote this. Like, if you think LLMs, large language models, hallucinate, have you talked to people recently? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Anyway, so back to the emotional imprint. So that emotional anchors as part of these temporal anchors, right? So trauma, ecstasy, these types of things reverberate backward, shaping intuition and sort of this gut instinct of us as humans, right? I don't know, like, and how would you map it too, by the way? Like, let's say you were given in this moment, you yourself, the exact age you are down to the atomic clock microsecond or whatever, however the hell they measure that crap, and had a map of all the things that ever happened to you from the time you were born to right now. How would you actually sort of space that and put that in and mark, highlights, like kind of a highlighter here, a highlighter there, like, oh, this is when I got my college degree, this is when I got fired from my first job, right? Or whatever, like whatever it was, this is when I met this particular person that changed my life. Like, think about that and think about how that stretches and how you could go back and map your own temporal anchors, the things that are really core to your identity. Okay. Now, in this space, it's a lot of data. It's a lot of complicated stuff, but it's a lot of mundane stuff too. It's a lot of, wake up and, eat breakfast and take a shower and go to work or whatever. So I don't know. It's a weird thing to consider all this as part of it because, like I always talk about those temporal anchors. I wonder if, because we're talking retrocausality tonight, I wonder if, I don't know, like shout out Rivers, our friend Rivers, like the river of time as it flows, right? And they say that, you throw the rock into a river and it splashes and you can cause sort of a disruption, but it's gone in a moment and the river continues to flow. You know what I mean? So we can only cause so much disruption, I don't know, conceptually, as part of as Eric was describing, sort of our quantum entanglement aspect of the microtubules and the hammer off Penrose aspect of this. I don't know. I'm rambling here, but you see what I'm saying? I think it's complicated, and I do wonder if the temporal anchor aspect of this is maybe more important than we like to think. And it does come into Stranger Things and trauma. Like we talked about this in the past as well. And we'll talk about Stranger Things when it comes out, coming soon here, because it's is it Halloween, James? I think is the first episode when this thing comes out. You remember?
I don't know for sure. I think it was like 3 parts, I believe, is last I heard, like once around Halloween, once around Thanksgiving, I think, and then once like near the end of the year,
or Christmas,
beginning
right?
of next year.
Christmas or New Year, yeah. So I think we do have one coming in Halloween. Anyway, so the reason I bring up that, thank you for that, and is because the trauma aspect of Vecna and all the rest. Too late to get into the Stranger Things aspect of this. We will a little bit later as we kind of start flowing into that space of the release, and when the first one comes out, we'll give you time to see it and stuff. No spoilers and whatnot. But anyway, okay. So this is where this kind of led as I was flowing through these ideas, and as you know me, kind of like, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. Here's what we got where we started with this fantastic article from Popular Mechanics, and it dawned on me as I was kind of going through these ideas that maybe entirely that idea of the guardian angel or that idea of an ancestral spirit could be described by this echoes from tomorrow, or of course echoes from the past in the same sense, right? So I don't know. Let's see. Read a little bit from the outline here. So spirit guides in that particular space, angels, familiar spirits, as we've talked about, even one of my other favorites, those primordial nature spirits, maybe those are less important than the quantum aspect of us actually being able to communicate with our consciousness to the future and the past. You see what I'm saying? So there's as we described earlier, who brought it up? Synchronicity as part of this. Like there's a lot of things here in play that kind of make some sense, at least conceptually. Like I said, no answers to be found. The whole point is to just kind of look at this and, kind of squint. As I always say, if you squint, yeah, it kind of makes some sense, right? Like you kind of squint and everything can kind of make some sense. But I don't know. A lot of things to consider and talk about. But do check out the write-up as I described. It is very good tonight, and it is very robust. It's got a lot of these ideas kind of cooked into it, which is very good. Shout out Jack Surfatti over there on Twitter X. Oh, and Tan Lines and who did I miss? Tan Lines and Cubs Future over there on Rumble, if I didn't say that. Anyway, anything on that, James? And I got a little bit. I'm going to read from the article here because the thing that dawned on me, the most important part of this to me, is the aspect of us being our own guardian angels from the future. I see you, Daryl. Hang tight one sec. James, you got anything on that? And then we'll go to Daryl.
Yeah, I do wonder. This has made me wonder all night here. Have all my weird experiences in sleep, in dream, and out-of-body experiences, have they been caused? Because for years I've never known. I still don't know. I've never known why or how these things happen. But were they all caused by other aspects of me or me from other time periods or other alternate universes showing me glimpses of those other places at different times? And I'm really wondering about that now, and that seems like it's a possibility.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, clearly we believe as a collective, as a human collective, a massive percentage of humanity believes we do have guardian angels or guardian spirits or familiar spirits or elementals or however you want to describe it. Like this, as you and I were kind of chatting last night with our buddies there, is that some of these things are semantics at some point. It's like, okay, so you can call it that, but it also seems to be this and this and this also. So how do you quantify it? And in this case, tonight, this particular Echoes from Tomorrow space it feels like maybe we are our own guardian angels anyway. And not to be blasphemous, you guys know me. I kind of step outside of those spaces and look at all of it together. So don't throw stones. 702-957-1037. Daryl, thanks for popping in here. How you doing tonight? Go right ahead.
Hey, Michael. Interesting topic. I was just listening to something about time and how we went by these, how we keep time. And we were keeping time with the Georgian calendar and the Caesar calendar. And every year there would be an excess amount of time where Passover or Easter wouldn't fall on the right date, and then it was like 13 days off. And there's also a question of a lot of missing time. Like there seems to be like this dark age time where nothing new happened, technologically speaking, like, nothing advanced at all. And somehow maybe we kind of misplaced 1,000 or something like that. This gets into the Tartaria stuff, but I can't remember who, it was like a pope, a king, or somebody decided this is the right time, and that's what went by from that moment on. And why? Why did somebody, decide, because that's why we have leap year now, and kind of keeps our holidays in the right place instead of going by one calendar or the other, because there were so many years that went by that we kept by the calendar where we, Easter would fall on the wrong day of the month, not sure what day that is, but that's probably why they, changed to this new calendar to keep time. But at the same time, they might have lost, a few hundred years or two, There is like a question about, what happened? Like, why didn't we see new architecture? Why didn't we see new advancements in technology? But then, of course, there was probably a big reset again, where it all goes with giants and et cetera, where there was this mud flood. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. You dropped the keyword we needed tonight. We didn't hear Tartaria, so you brought it. Shout out Rumble folks. They're always over there keeping a tab on. Did we say psyop? Did we say Tartaria tonight? Did we say this? Did we say that? So you definitely checked the box. You definitely checked the box. Okay, fantastic. I want to point this out. So you're talking about the phantom time hypothesis. I did a show on this several years back, and I'll read it real quick. Right. So the hypothesis proposed by Heribert Illig in the 1990s accuses Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and possibly Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII of conspiring to rewrite history. According to the theory, these elites altered records to place their reigns at the prestigious year 1000 AD, inventing entire events, people such as Charlemagne, and even coins or manuscripts supposedly from this period. It's a deep thread. Go check it out if you're interested, but it's called the phantom time hypothesis. And I'm such a weirdo. I knew exactly what it was when you brought it up. Sorry about that. Go ahead. What else you got?
Exactly. They mentioned Charlemagne too. You're right. That was fictional too. It was a conspiracy somehow. And you know what? You have to have a lot of, like the Tartaria conspiracy. I mean, they were on the map for so many years, and then suddenly they were gone. So that means the entire world had to be in cahoots to remove Tartaria from, the map, from the world map, and not talk about it. So and then the mud flood, and then the tall people were gone, so what went down with the tall guys, Why did we decide to eliminate them? That was a big genocide. They were human like us. They were just big. So we were living side by side. Were we their slaves? Did we revolt? What happened? That something went down that the whole world had to agree on. They were called, the Upper Asian, Tartarian, Lower Asian, or whatever, I mean, it was like the whole map said practically Tartaria, and then suddenly it didn't. What the hell went down? I think we're coming to some conclusions. I wish we could maybe, they're feeding like AI all interesting stuff. Like, what did this cuneiform say? And all of them turn into like celestial maps, actually. It's nothing what we thought initially. They all are something like a story about the stars and about impending doom. So they knew what was coming. These civilizations that couldn't really, I don't know how they thought we were going to be able to understand their writings without artificial intelligence somehow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They couldn't leave anything else, but they put it in stone. They wrote it into stone. So they, maybe they did write it on paper, but the paper's gone by now, That's the way they had it. That they had no other choice but to put it into stone. And maybe they made it simpler, by using characters or drawings or stuff like that. But there's some intense stuff that they're finding out now, thanks to AI and thanks to, getting out old archives of old stuff that we couldn't figure out before. It's pretty interesting.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
Totally. A lot of knowledge coming up, And the only thing I have to say, do you know how Bigfoot tells the time?
No idea.
With a Sasquatch.
Of course.
Okay, thank you.
I like the other. Isn't there like a Bigfoot one with his never mind. Well, I'll message you the thing, see if you remember it. I don't want to be too crude, but yeah.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember it. No, that's a naughty one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant.
Not a good time to tell a Bigfoot joke. Anyway, save it for another, another show.
Save it for another time. You're the best. Thanks for popping in here. Always a pleasure. You have a fantastic night, and we'll talk to you soon. That's Daryl in New York. You love her, good friend for a long time. Please go give her a follow. You know where to find her. It's very simple. Like I said, if you haven't followed so many of these amazing people yet, you're hurting my feelings. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It's very simple. And don't send me a message asking me, hey, Mike, what about that thing you're always talking about? Just go to it. troubledminds.org. Click on the friends or /friends. Scroll down and go look. Go look. There's a wall of people there. And you should be on this wall. Okay. Shout out Dragon Rose if you're still there. Sorry about that. I'm still working on that. I've locked myself out of my thing because my old codes are on my old computer. Anyway, long story short, my old passwords in a particular file because I don't keep them saved in the browser. Anyway, you feel my pain. But if you belong on this list, you should be on this list. All you have to do is help us spread the word, help us with ideas, help us with calls, help us in the chat. Just it's easy. It's very easy. And yeah, I appreciate that very much. Thanks for the call. Daryl is the best. troubledminds.org/friends. Scroll down. It says follow Daryl here. Check out her YouTube channel. She's very talented, very smart, as you know, very funny, as you know, and go listen to her sing in English and French on her YouTube channel. And of course, join our Discord and come check out and hang out with her karaoke team and friends over there. She's got a bunch of very talented folks, including herself, that do karaoke like 5 times a week. If you guys like to sing or just listen, come do that. James, anything to add? And let's wrap it up.
Yeah, great call from Daryl and from everyone. I do think, going back to also what you and Eric were talking about earlier, translation is so tricky. And I think you could do a whole show, not only the Enoch books that he was talking about, but just on how translation can give you so many different meanings depending on how you do it. And so I think that could be a whole show in and of itself, just the idea of translation and how it can be used for agendas. So I think that'd be a good thing to cover at some point. But yeah, great calls from everyone, and thank you for letting me sit in as always, because this is a great topic, and I love the synchronicities.
Yeah, it's weird how they just kind of keep coming, right? Like that again, two pretty big ones there. Just on Eric's call, like the Archons, the Watchers, and then the Somewhere in Time. Of all the movies, of all the damn things, right? Like it's just so wild how these things just continue to stack over and over. And we've done this hundreds of times, you and I together, in different ways, sort of inadvertently. It just continues to happen over and over and over again. I don't know. Is it because we're all just weirdos, or is it because there's something a little more undescribable in play? And that really becomes a question. You're the best, James.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't plan on researching what I research every day. I just take what I, use what I find. And so, yeah, it's amazing when that happens. But yeah, thank you.
No, glad to have you. And I was about to, so what I didn't want to do, so we were chatting last night, James and I, with Derek and shout out Rivers as well. And there's a really fire thread that came out of that. I just didn't want to steal it. I didn't want to be like, I'm doing that show tomorrow, because it's really good. So maybe at some point we can get together, the three of us, and do that. But there's just a lot of wild ideas kind of flowing through the zeitgeist as part of it, and recognizing them and then talking about them as part of it. It's part of being human, recognizing patterns. Right? We are pattern recognition experts. James, you're the best. You know where to follow him. You know where to find him. SalcedoParanormal.com, troubledminds.org. Scroll down /friends. It says follow James. Go check out James and all the work he's doing by his books. Follow his podcast. Check out the radio show. Do all the things, and go leave him a thumbs up in all the places. And always a pleasure, James. Appreciate you very much for sitting down. Like I said, my blood pressure goes down 10 points when you show up, because it just it takes a little pressure off me. I appreciate that. You're the best.
No, always glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Let's push this button. There you go. All right. Okay, so I told you I was going to tell you about a little thing. So please forgive me. I'm going to take some time off. However, what I didn't want to just like dip for like 6 months, because that's messed up. So here's what I'm going to do. All right. And I'll post this in the Discord and also on X. For the time being, I'm going to do Sunday night shows, and that's it. Just Sunday. I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that. But the problem is that I am building a ton of things, and I can't ever gain enough traction because I have to do human things too. You know, I don't have to explain to you that I have a day job and all the rest. And so I'm just running out of time. And these things need to be built now, because with the acceleration, etc. And I will share some of these things that I'm building, but I'm running out of time. I can't keep up with all the things. And so the thing that makes the most sense, and I know this sucks, is to cut Troubled Minds out, cut it back a little bit for the time being. So no show on Thursday. I will be back on Sunday, and we'll do Sunday for a couple, 3 weeks, maybe a month, and hopefully I can get through this stuff. And then get some products launched, and then come back and we'll do a full time or something. Because I really want to do this 5 nights a week, or 4 nights a week. Probably 4 is the sweet spot. 4 nights, maybe 2-hour shows. But I just can't keep up. I can't keep up. I have to sleep, and I have to eat, and I have to do human things. I have to go grocery shopping. So sorry for the bad news, but for the time being, we will do Sunday nights only for, consider a month maybe. You know me, I hate to stay away. I know you guys rely on me for this space, for us to get together. So I do take it seriously, and I do understand that it sucks when I say things like this. Okay? So I'll be back as soon as possible. But Sundays we will continue to do, so we keep the group together, so we keep the momentum, so we can kind of build ideas. But that's what's going to happen for the time being. So just to let you know, no show on Thursday night. We will do Sunday, and the following Sunday, and the following Sunday. And we're moving into the Halloween season, so that's going to really make me get back to. So thank you for understanding. Like I always say, this is not it's not an easy thing to kind of drop, because I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy being here. It's like yoga for the mind. And I know it is for you guys too. So thanks for understanding, and thanks for being part of it. Thanks for carrying. Shout out Sylvain. I see you there, buddy. And so no show Thursday. We'll be here Sunday, following Sunday. I'm thinking 3-4 weeks of just go all the go. I might be able to slay this. So anyway, cross your fingers. Send me good vibes and all the things, and I will do my best to get back as soon as possible to a more regular schedule. So thank you for that. There you go. Yeah, sorry. Puff over there, thank you for the generous tip on Rumble. Says last week sucked. Thanks for the show, Mike. Yeah, from the Rumble crew. Appreciate that. You know me. It's hard to stay away. I'll be back as soon as I possibly can. So thanks for understanding. As we finish, you guys know what to do. Help our friends. Spread the word. Let people know a conversation is happening. There's over 1,000 episodes on the podcast feed. Go back and listen to the Tartaria one. Go back and listen to all the time travel stuff we've done. There's probably like 15 that fit into this, the phantom time hypothesis. Go back and listen. They're on the podcast feed. As we finish, it goes exactly like this. For Sylvain, be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.